Chapter 1, Our city is perfectly safe. Jiangyu? Right now, I'm at the ophthalmology department of Cloudsea First Central Hospital in the Cloudsea settlement. The doctor skimmed through the test results in his hand, then turned to study me as I sat down. My jet-black cropped hair partly concealed sharp eyebrows and piercing eyes, while my nose was prominent with a blade-like edge to my lips, altogether a strikingly handsome appearance. But now I look haggard, with sunken eyes, appearing as if suffering from kidney deficiency. "Hello, smoking isn't allowed here," the doctor said, pointing at the slim cigarette I was holding between my lips. I smacked my lips and crunched the yellow-based, white-bodied stick into my mouth, chewing it up. "It's candy cigarettes." After a pause, I spoke up. "Recently, my eyes haven't been feeling too great. Sometimes everything looks like it's covered in a red haze. It disappears when I blink, then reappears with the next blink. And looking at dark objects, especially shadows, always gives me an indescribable feeling." "How long have the symptoms lasted?" Dr. Zhao inquired. "It's been about 2 months, and it wasn't this bad at first." I gazed anxiously at a spot several centimeters above the doctor's head, my voice heavy with concern. In my line of sight, something seemed to be coalescing there, blood-colored swirls tumbling to form an elongated strip, while specks of light gathered at its center, resembling a numeral. 2 months ago, while organizing my bookshelf, I was struck on the forehead by a book with a pure white cover, nearly knocking the breath out of me. After that, my eyes started undergoing strange changes. At first, I began seeing lines above people's heads, then colors appeared, followed by increasing numbers of lines right up to the present. There's actually something else I haven't mentioned. Whenever I look at shadows, I always sense something pitch-black wriggling within them. I booked appointments not just with ophthalmology, but also pollution pathology for good measure. I blinked, and the crimson bar above Dr. Zhao's head grew more distinctly shaped, its numbers gradually coming into focus. What was that? My pupils constricted violently as a shiver ran through my entire body. "What's wrong?" Dr. Zhao followed my gaze upwards toward his own head. Realizing I'd overreacted, I quickly straightened up properly. "Sorry, my eyes were playing tricks on me." The lines above the doctor's head had completely stabilized into a rectangular frame, with just a sliver of red remaining. In the middle of the frame displayed the numerals, 18%, looking exactly like a health bar from online games. I studied Dr. Zhao carefully. He wore a large face mask, with a few wrinkles at the corners of his eyes, his hair half gray and half white, yet his eyes sparkled with vitality and energy. If this really were a health bar, wouldn't 18% mean he was near death? Care for a drink? Right now? Dr. Zhao was rendered speechless again. "Sorry, I got a bit distracted." I cleared my throat lightly. "Can't focus, young man, never mind. Open your eyes, let me take a look." Dr. Zhao stood up, took out a device that emitted bright white light when switched on, aimed it at my eyes, and instructed me to look left, look right. After examining all directions, he sat back down and said, "Nothing serious. All test results are normal, just common conjunctivitis. I'll prescribe some eye drops, use them for 2 weeks." "All right." I thanked the doctor and turned to leave the examination room. Pushing the door open, I took a deep breath of the cool air. Doctors, nurses, and patients bustled about the hospital, each with dense health bars hovering above their heads, 88%, 76%, 91%. "Excuse me, coming through." A man with blood gushing from his right eye spoke to me. Despite his severe injury, the number above his head remained as high as 73%. I looked around curiously as I walked, becoming increasingly certain that the numbers and grids above people's heads were health bars. Surgical fracture patients generally had low health values. Internal medicine cases were more complex. Some appeared fine outwardly but actually had internal issues, with health bars varying widely. Judging overall, aside from those lying on wheelchairs or stretchers, few people had health bars below 50%. What about Dr. Zhao in the consultation room then? Glancing at the payment slip in my hand, I hesitated for a moment before tucking it into my pocket. Why bother treating conjunctivitis anymore? Clearly my cheat ability had arrived. But what's the use of seeing health bars? Scratching my head in confusion, I walked out of the hospital. LCD screens hung on both sides of the hospital hallway played announcements. Recent nocturnal activity of aberrant species has been detected. Please report any abnormalities to the Night Patrol Bureau immediately. All citizens are advised to avoid nighttime outings. In order to ensure the safety of our citizens, the Night Patrol Bureau will soon initiate a new round of recruitment to oversee the streets at night. In the 99th year of the Cataclysm, we have successfully established a safe haven for survivors. The aberrations have been retreating steadily, and hope belongs to us, the Great Joe. Through our collective efforts, our nation's economy is rapidly developing, and our cities are absolutely secure. It's been nearly a year since I transmigrated into this world, and I've gradually adapted to this realm of extraordinary abilities. I consider myself quite fortunate to arrive now when the world has stabilized. Had I ended up in the arduous struggle during the 20s or 30s of the Cataclysm, my feeble constitution would never have survived. A stable city, ample food, and clothing, these two are a form of simple happiness. I took a deep breath, popped a cigarette-shaped candy into my mouth, and stepped out of the hospital. As I bent down to tie my shoelaces, the late winter, early spring weather was unusually gloomy and bitingly cold. When I stood up after tying my shoes, I froze. A creeping chill spread from the depths of my heart to my entire body, leaving my hands and feet icy cold, as if plunged into a frozen abyss. The sprawling street was devoid of pedestrians, and the buildings within sight had transformed into a cold, dark palette of black and gray. Slim-limbed creatures the size of cars scaled and leapt between buildings, bloated, gourd-like monstrosities writhed and danced across the pavement. Shadowy, smoke-like entities flickered in and out of existence along the roadside. Zooming out, one could see all manner of grotesque mutants roaming the streets, rooftops, and alleyways. Warriors clad in black and red combat uniforms flashed through the scene, slashing with blades locked in fierce combat. I could barely breathe. Looking up, I saw a black sun hanging high in the sky, topped with a long health bar. This is quite a serious problem. It's okay to start panicking now, I murmured as my fingers trembled slightly, crunching down on the candy between my teeth. Suddenly, the black and gray hues receded like the tide, and vibrant sounds erupted in my ears once more. Pedestrians on the street, rustling tree branches, honking cars, everything brimmed with life. I looked around in bewilderment. Old man, be careful now, watch your step on the stairs. Hey buddy, wanna buy meds? Pharmagrade, costs 50 grand a bottle at the factory, I'll give it to you for 5. Mommy, this handsome uncle is just standing here staring blankly. My Adam's apple bobbed with difficulty as my gaze swept across the rows of faces before settling on the massive screen standing outside the hospital. The first century after the cataclysm, the Night Watch Department remains the steadfast shield for all citizens. Our world grows ever better, our city absolutely safe. I looked up again at the yellow sun in the sky bright and warm, with a long health bar floating above it. Indeed, our city seemed perfectly safe. Chapter 2, This Damn Ability. Bro, need some meds? Printed in a factory, identical to the real deal. The fake drug peddler patted my shoulder, snapping me out of my thoughts. Imprisoned people, elaborate lies. These conjectures flashed through my mind until my swirling thoughts were abruptly interrupted by the counterfeit drug dealer. What do you want? I exhaled sharply. Want to buy some meds? The bogus pharmacist asked hopefully. Drugs? This city's crawling with monsters, and you're still peddling pills? What are you, some kind of miracle healer? You're crazy. The fake medicine vendor turned and walked away. Hold on, kid, if you're not buying, don't interfere with my business. Selling miracle oil? A bottle of miracle oil was actually being sold for 3,000, so I promptly reported him. By the time I finished giving my statement at the police station, dusk was approaching. Staring at the setting sun, I felt somewhat dazed. In the evening, the gathering place by Yunhai was bustling with noise, couples with their tricycle stalls along the roadside, a girl chasing balloons, lovers strolling leisurely hand in hand. Who could have imagined that beneath such tranquility, there was another side to the story? What exactly happened in the hospital at that moment? Was it a hallucination or a delusion? I wasn't sure, but one thing was clear, Nene seemed to be in some pain, and it was getting worse by the minute. I kept a straight face the whole way, taking the bus, getting off, entering the neighborhood, riding the elevator back to my room and headed straight to the bathroom to take off my shirt. On my chest, a 3 to 4 centimeter tattoo of a book design emitted a faint glow. The pattern wasn't overly intricate, 3 rings forming a larger ring, all of which made up the book's cover. This was the very symbol that had struck me earlier, the culprit. HSS, it hurts so bad. The pain grew more intense, like a branding iron searing relentlessly into my skin, accompanied by a sensation of something burrowing deeper inward. Damn it. I'd already scheduled an appointment with the pollution department. I should have gotten this checked while I was at it. Gritting my teeth, I grabbed the shower head and sprayed water right at the mark on my chest. My chest sizzled ominously, emitting wisps of white smoke. That's better. After enduring the pain for a full minute, it finally began to subside. I wiped my face, slicked back my hair, and studied my reflection. The mirror showed a strikingly handsome but somewhat pale face, complete with a hovering health bar displaying 100% above my head. Since leaving the hospital, I'd done some preliminary research into my abilities. Most ordinary creatures displayed health bars within a 30-meter line of sight, and mirrors could reflect my own status. A simple mental command would toggle the display off when unwanted. So far, that was all I'd figured out. Seeing my full health status, I breathed a sigh of relief. Turning off the shower, I felt like I'd forgotten something. I went to the hospital for an eye exam first, because there were blood-colored lines in my vision, and today it was confirmed that the so-called blood color was actually a health bar. Second, when looking at dark objects, especially shadows, my vision would become distorted. Oh right, I forgot about the shadow thing. I looked down, where's my shadow? The bathroom light shone from above, so I shifted my position at an angle, and my shadow appeared on the wall. Phew, that's a relief. Almost thought my shadow was gone. The day had been too bizarre. Even if my shadow had run away, I probably wouldn't have been too surprised. I grabbed a towel to dry my face and opened the bathroom door, only to find a pitch-black figure standing silently in the doorway. It was entirely dark, with slight variations in shade across its body, and two hollow, fathomless eye sockets staring straight at me. Our gazes met. I knew it. It couldn't be that simple. After the hospital incident, this was the second time my heart skipped a beat. My shadow didn't escape, instead, it came alive. Raise your hand. Lift your leg. Now do the social dance. Damn, you can even do that? Watching my shadow swaying with flowery hand gestures before me, my mind was in complete chaos. I gently ran my palm over the tattoo on my chest. Light points floated in the air, rapidly expanding as the words divine, abnormal, and human flashed by before finally settling on human. A luminous screen fully unfurled before me. Name, Jiangyu. Attribute, shadow. Shadow points, 1 out of 1. Tier, unlocks at 10 shadow points. Abilities, shadow devour shadow pupil. This panel-like thing records my current status. With a thought, parts of the text can be expanded further. Shadow says my shadow exists because of me. It holds all my memories and can execute any simple command I issue, but lacks independent thinking capabilities in physical form. It even suggests I could try giving it an exercise command. Shadow Devour means I can draw shadow points from all forms of darkness to strengthen myself, or decompose inanimate objects to harvest shadow points. Shadow pupils indicates unknown changes have occurred in my eyes. Activating this ability allows me to see the world's dark side and choose to observe/enter it. This is a lot to process. My mind feels messy. I glance at the luminous screen, then at the shadow standing before me. Reaching out, my hand passes right through its chest. This thing has no physical form. Can you talk? I asked, receiving only silence in return. Do you have all my memories? I questioned again, and the shadow nodded. All right. I turned around and rummaged through the desk, eventually pulling out a test paper. Given f x equals x superscript 3, 3x superscript 2 plus 1, greater than 0, define h x equals max f x g x, where f x greater than or equal to g x g x, when f x g x. Find the extrema of f x. This is my summer homework, give it a try. I handed over the pen. Wait, can you even hold a pen? The shadow remained silent but successfully grasped the pen. Does this thing have a physical form? I reached out again, my hand passing right through its body. It was downright creepy. Why aren't you writing anymore? I looked over, then immediately paled. The shadow had merely written the word solution before stopping, looking back at me with an innocent expression. Bullshit owns all my memories. I could crank out one of these questions every 2 minutes just for fun. I reopened the light screen and carefully reread the skill description. Can you carry out the simple commands I give you? Have the college entrance exam questions become too difficult? Recite battle through the heavens from memory, I commanded. The shadow's pen moved swiftly this time. Horsepower, 3rd level. Staring at the 5 glaringly bright characters on the magic test monument, the young man from the Shao family remained expressionless, a trace of self-mockery at the corner of his lips as his fingernails dug deeply into his palms. Holy shit! I feel like I've stumbled upon something big. Who needs to be extraordinary when you can just copy books in the shadows and sell them yourself? It's practically printing money. This could actually work. No, this is definitely going to work. But copying books was one thing. First, I needed to understand my own situation. I looked at the remaining abilities. Shadow Devour, was it supposed to consume darkness? I crouched in the corner, stretched out my hand, and waited for a while, but nothing happened. This damn ability doesn't even come with an instruction manual or beginner's guide to explain things, making my teeth itch with frustration. As for the final shadow pupil, I do have some understanding, the dark side of the world, which I'd already experienced back at the hospital. Let's take it one step at a time. Stop copying for now, do some push-ups and show me. The shadow nodded, rose from its seat, and then gradually faded from view under my watchful gaze until it vanished completely. Hey, I told you to do push-ups, where the hell did you run off to? Where's my damn shadow? Chapter 3, you are now a fully grown shadow. Ceiling? Nope. Kitchen? Nope. Toilet? Also nope. I unzipped my pants, still nope. Hey, where are you? Come out. I shouted. Then, a slight tremor passed through my heart, and as I turned around, a pitch-black figure slowly emerged from thin air. What the hell is that shadow? I rubbed my temples. Where have you been? Or is this some invisibility trick? The shadow made a series of gestures, but I couldn't understand. Take a pen, write it down. The shadow walked to the table, picked up a pen, and wrote 2 large characters, dark side. The dark side of the world? I realized, and the shadow nodded. What will you do there? The shadow gestured that it was doing push-ups. Why go there to do push-ups? The shadow indicated it was for exercise. Could it be that exercising on the dark side of the world is more effective? I pondered. Working out in the dark side might be for the better. Having a pitch-black mass in the room is downright eerie. The ability description of shadow even suggested I issue an exercise command. Well, might as well let it be. The sun had completely set, and the bright moon hung high in the sky. Moonlight draped like gauze over the entire cloud-shrouded gathering place. The streets were bustling with traffic, though compared to the metropolis I came from before crossing over, it was much smaller. And as time passed, the streets would grow increasingly deserted. After 11 at night, aside from the Night Watch Bureau, there were seldom any pedestrians or vehicles active on the main streets. I waved my shadow away, pulled out a chair, and switched on my computer and drawing tablet. Besides being a senior in high school, I was also an ultra-popular manga artist specializing in action-packed comics. Drawing on the artistic skills from my previous life, the first major thing I did after crossing over was attempt to create, or rather, replicate, action manga. After the cataclysm, Joe's cultural industry was severely lacking, so when my comics debuted, they exploded in popularity within a short time, and my pen name Rainy Knight with a Blade became widely known. It's been half a month of rest time to start a new anime series. There are so many exciting themes to choose from. Which one should I pick this time? I opened my notes and skimmed through the list of titles with my cursor. World's Charm, Secret Private Academy, Dorm Supervisor, Weak Point, Welcome to the Dream Broadcast Booth, Hooked Good Girl, Any Vacant Rooms Left, Fitness Instructor, Swimming Crash Course, Cute Classmate Xiaoro. With so many thrilling manga options, having too many choices can sometimes be frustrating. The next morning, I was slumped over my desk when the sound of rapid knocks startled me awake. My eyelids fluttered before slowly opening. I must have dozed off while working late into the night. Jiangyu, open the door. A familiar voice echoed outside. Yawning, I shuffled to the door, muttering, what's the matter so early in the morning? The door had barely cracked open when Lu Yaoyao, sporting a neat bob cut, eagerly squeezed through the gap. She's my classmate, childhood friend, and also my most devoted fan. Beneath her crescent moon brows shone bright, starlit eyes. Her delicate nose resembled a white flower bud, and her lips, crystalline and translucent, were utterly charming. Ha! I noticed the HP, 90%, displayed above her head. Why so low? Glancing at the calendar, I instantly understood. Scratching my nose, I averted my gaze. Lu Yaoyao said eagerly, quick. Last night you were shaking with excitement, talking about starting a new project and having the content all planned out. Can you show me the concept materials? With a loud bang, Lu Yaoyao's fair little face trembled 3 times. Her complexion paled as she turned around, growing even whiter. The security door slammed shut, dust cascading from the edges of the frame, and tiny cracks appeared in the wall. I stared dumbfounded at my own arm. The muscle definition was smooth and clear, a sense of boundless strength coiled within. With just a slight flex, my arm tensed like tempered steel. Did you work out? Lu Yaoyao gasped, wide-eyed as she took in my chest and solid arms. The thin half-sleeve I wore did nothing to hide my pectorals, and the contours of my back and shoulders were subtly visible beneath the fabric. Did you take something you shouldn't have? As expected of a night patrol officer's daughter, Lu Yaoyao reacted swiftly, her face full of vigilance. Jiangyu, I'm telling you, that kind of stuff is off limits. It's not too late to turn back now. My dad deals with countless cases like this every year. Just shut up already with that yapping mouth of yours, I said, my eye twitching in irritation. Then how do you explain that just 5 days ago when I saw you, it wasn't this extreme? Lu Yaoyao still hadn't let her guard down, even reaching a hand toward her waist. Hey, you're not about to pull out some lethal weapon, are you? My eyelids flickered nervously. Cough. Her movements paused slightly as she changed direction to rummage, soon pulling out a palm-sized device. She tossed it over and said, here, clip it on your finger and test yourself. What does it measure? I asked. Pollution index, she explained. With the abyss's descent and the invasion of aberrant species, pollution arises from killing aberrations, ingesting certain foreign substances, or harboring resentment and hatred to an extreme degree. Without purification, it can lead to degradation or transformation. I thought to myself, my abilities come from the manual on my chest, what pollution could I possibly have? Still, I picked up the pollution meter and asked, how does this work? Clamp your finger. This thing looked like a clamp. After I flipped it, it pinched my index finger. About 2 or 3 seconds later, a faint electric current surged from the fingertip, probing inward along my arm. In an instant, the so-called shadow spots in my body reacted. At the same time, the values on the detector began to skyrocket, 10, 20, 40. Holy shit! My eyelid twitched as I quickly suppressed the unnatural movements in my body. Soon, the values dropped at a visibly rapid pace before finally settling into calm. See? I told you there was nothing to worry about, I mumbled through my lips. Lu Yaoyao looked suspicious, glancing between me and the equipment before lowering the firearm in her hand. Wait, a gun? You weren't actually planning to shoot me dead, were you? My eyelids twitched again. Just being cautious, Lu Yaoyao replied, reassured as she tucked the weapon away again. After much persuasion and finally bribing her with a brand new shonen anime art book set, I managed to coax this temperamental lady into leaving. Back in my room, I immediately pulled up the status panel, which displayed, "Your shadow has entered the world's dark side to begin training. Shadow Devour activated, absorbing shadow points for the first time. Your shadow has grown stronger. Training in progress. Arm strength +1 training in progress. Arm strength +1 Shadow Devour active. Shadow point +1 Shadow Devour active. Shadow point +1. The rest of the log was uniformly filled with training updates. Shadow points, 5 out of 5. I was momentarily stunned. After a dozen seconds collecting myself, I beckoned my shadow forward and asked, "You've been training all night?" The shadow nodded in confirmation. "This is absolutely outrageous." My gaze gradually grew fervent as I said, "Good, but push-ups alone won't give you a thorough enough workout. You're already a mature shadow now, let's increase the difficulty level. From now on, ditch regular push-ups, we're doing double under jump ropes instead. Plus, pike push-ups, walking planks, one-handed handstand, two-finger push-ups, handstand tiger leap push-ups, planche push-ups, human flags, pistol squats, Spider-Man crawls, L-sit leg raises, and dragon flag ab shakes. Let's begin our joyful training session." Cataclysm Calendar, Year 99, January 20th, first day obtaining a shadow. I spent the whole night as a shadow without even noticing, effortlessly growing stronger. This way of getting stronger, it's truly shameless. How can us young people be content with the status quo? January 21st, the next day, I scheduled more exercises for the shadow, and the results were outstanding. In just 2 days, my six-pack became perfectly defined, with muscles flowing smoothly all over my body. I probably could punch Lu Yaoyao to death now. No, it's time to work harder. January 22 ND. Uncle Lee visited today. He also works at the night patrol department. Hopefully he didn't notice anything unusual about me. Uncle Lee is getting old and has lost an arm. I reckon I could take down 3 Uncle Lees and 10 Lu Yaoyaos with a single punch now. January 23 RD. Damn it, I can't let myself grow complacent like this. Having gained supernatural abilities, I should push myself even harder. After all, to forge iron, one must be strong oneself. I absolutely can't afford to slack off. January 24 TH. Shadow does the workout, I reap the benefits. January 25 TH. Shadow keeps working out, I keep enjoying the perks. January 26. Great, did 10 push-ups voluntarily today, continuing to enjoy my blessings. January 26. The shadow points are accumulating so slowly. Aside from gaining 4 points on the first day, only 8 points have been accumulated after all these days. I wonder how many more days it will take to gather the full 10 points needed to unlock the rank. Perhaps entering the dark side myself would accelerate the process? January 27 TH. Tried activating Shadow Sight to enter the world's dark side. Damn it, why is the gate here harder than steel? Impossible to open. I could only access the dark side from outside the house. Inside the dark side, the neighborhood was sealed off by a layer of mist. No way out, no way in. Left with no choice, I had to enter the shadow layer from outside our neighborhood in the physical world. Holy crap, there was actually a 2-meter-tall Piao squatting at the entrance of the neighboring community. Its forelimbs were dual sides. It chased me all the way, even ripped my pants, but luckily I managed to exit the dark side at the critical moment. January 28 TH. That ghost dares to ambush me at my neighborhood gate. I can't swallow this humiliation. I'll take it down. January 29th. Failed my revenge. Took a tail swipe to the chest, almost broke my ribs. January 30th. Revenge failed, ended up with 3 bloody scratches on my butt, but successfully shaved off 6% of its HP. Keep fighting. January 31 Essay. Lu Yaoyao held iodine solution in her hand, carefully dabbing it on my arms and face. As she applied it, she glared at me and asked, "Have you been picking fights these past few days?" "You wouldn't understand," I hissed through the sting. "Scars are a man's medals." Metal? Lu Yaoyao extended her index finger and pressed hard on my bruised arm. Ouch, ouch, ouch. At least you still feel pain. She withdrew her finger as if shocked while sensing my firm muscles. By the way, the martial arts exam is just a month away. What are your plans, Yaoyao? Taking it? I asked through gritted teeth. After all, as the child of Night Patrol Division executives, there's little doubt about her qualifications. It all depends on her personal decision. I actually want to study music. If you want to study it, then go for it, I chuckled. Could it be that Uncle Lou doesn't approve? It'd be understandable if he didn't. After all, in these post-calamity years, most arts degrees aren't exactly in high demand. Job opportunities are scarce, and their social standing isn't great either. The Night Watch division is too busy fighting variants to care about art. The trending charts are mostly filled with national affairs now, a far cry from the influencer-dominated era of my past life. Lu Yaoyao paused briefly while applying medicine to my wounds and said, "It's not that he disapproves. Just, don't tell anyone else." I suppressed my smile and asked, "What's wrong?" She applied iodine to the wounds on my arm, her eyes dim as she whispered, "The policy has changed. As long as qualifications meet the standard, Everyone must take the martial arts exam this year to apply for superhuman majors. I froze. Wasn't it voluntary before? Ordinary students could take the regular college entrance exam? Lu Yaoyao sighed softly, gently blowing on the medicine she'd applied to my arm. The Night Patrol Division is under increasing pressure. Unless something changes, I'll definitely have to take the martial arts exam. I really didn't know what to say. All college entrance exam candidates had to take the qualification test at the beginning of the semester, but I wasn't even sure if I should participate. That little device Lu Yaoyao took out the other day was already beeping incessantly. The equipment on test day would surely be even more sensitive. The moment I stepped in, the machines might immediately start clattering away. Then dozens of night patrol officers on site would raise their guns at me, firing 80 rounds in 2 seconds. Just thinking about it gave me a thrill. This little handbook I carry in my chest pocket looks perfectly normal, so how could it set off the equipment? My knowledge of the supernatural world is too limited, and Uncle Lee refuses to explain. I'm genuinely starting to worry this unreliable cheat might land me in the aberrant faction. After some thought, I decided to fish for information. That scanner you gave me last time, what's its working principle anyway? Can it really detect aberrants? Lu Yaoyao smiled, not suspecting me, and said, this is just a simple detector. It can't deal with variance, it only detects variance and transcendence. Didn't Uncle Lee tell you? Ordinary people should run if they encounter variance. If they can't escape, it's best to make an emergency call before dying. I noticed the term transcendence and asked, transcendence? But Lu Yaoyao showed no intention of explaining further. In my mind, I was thinking, couldn't you just continue? So there we were, just staring at each other in silence. Lu Yaoyao shrank back and asked, what are you doing? My eyes darted as I said, you must have some basic knowledge about superhumans and mutants at home, right? Can you lend it to me? Lu Yaoyao asked suspiciously, didn't you say you weren't interested in superhumans and planned to take the regular college entrance exam? Without batting an eyelid, I replied, people change. You said this year's martial arts exam is mandatory, what if I have talent? It's good to know in advance. Besides, I've got new inspiration and want to create an action-packed comic about superhumans and mutants. It's unclear whether it was the words supernatural beings, mutants or passion that caught her attention, but her eyes instantly lit up as she eagerly said, quick, tell me about it. So I began. The initial concept is about a frail teenager named Abin, who suffers constant bullying at school. But with a kind heart and the help of his lovely deskmate, gentle teacher, and amicable aunt, he's chosen by the Night Patrol Bureau to participate in the Super Soldier program. Through sheer willpower, he successfully transforms after receiving the Super Soldier serum injection, becoming the mighty Captain Abin. However, instead of sending him to the battlefield, the Night Patrol Bureau keeps assigning him to elite social gatherings and performances, where he mingles with wealthy heiresses and noble debutantes. Until one day when mutants invade the city, and a powerful pink-skulled mutant arrives carrying a blue cosmic cube. Lu Yaoyao listened in wide-eyed astonishment. In the evening, Lu Yaoyao and I arrived at her room. The south-facing room had deep blue curtains tied to one side, and the dim golden sunlight spilled through the glass onto the pure white desk, casting a golden glow. On the floor lay a cream-to-gray gradient carpet pressed against the bedside, with 2 plump, round cushions beside a small table. Inside the pale pink cabinet, aside from clothes, there was also a guitar, sheet music, and a flute. Who knows whether they were gathering dust or not. We lived in the same building, our front doors barely 10 meters apart. After some coaxing and wheedling, Lu Yaoyao finally gave in and brought me back to her place, intending to dig up some extraordinary materials. Her bed was covered with girlish pink sheets, the blanket neatly folded, and at the headboard lay a copy of the manga Yasuga no Sora. It seemed someone had been flipping through it all night. Lu Yaoyao, flustered and blushing, hastily tucked away the comic book and said, no peeking. I sighed and said, Yaoyao, you wouldn't want your uncle to find out about you sneaking peeks at those comics, would you? She shot me a withering glare. Shut up. Sit still, I'm going to my dad's room to grab some documents. Don't you dare touch my things. I waved my hand and said, go on. Lu Yaoyao got up and pushed the door open, heading to her father's room. Quietly, I cracked my own door open just a slit. Their rooms were directly across from each other. Then I heard a sharp bang as Lu Yaoyao quickly opened and shut her father's door. I leaned against the doorframe, originally intending to tease her about something, but with just that fleeting glimpse, the words at the tip of my tongue slipped back down my throat. Soon, Lu Yaoyao returned with a USB drive and a cassette tape. She plugged the USB into the computer and slid the tape into the cassette player, pressing it down with a crisp click. Melodious sounds filled the air, flutes, guzheng, drums, and so many instruments I couldn't even name. Strangely, all the tangled emotions in my heart gradually dissolved under the cleanse of this music. I steadied my breath and focused on the computer screen, my gaze hardening. The first page introduced the aberrants, powerful creatures from the abyss. Killing them always comes with a price, without exception. The text read, slay aberrants, bear their cost, grow stronger, step into the extraordinary. I studied it carefully. Becoming extraordinary was far more perilous than imagined, both mentally and physically. If you couldn't withstand it, you might mutate or degenerate, turning into an aberrant yourself. My heart sank as I continued reading. The world's dark side, the shadow layer, discovered 50 years ago by War Commander Yu Songbei. This was the interstitial space between the world and the abyss, a darkness shrouded in shadows. This place was unusual, it perfectly replicated the architecture of the real world, yet its materials were unnaturally durable. Before abyssal rifts opened, aberrants could infiltrate reality from the shadow layer. Though the Enforcement Bureau controlled all known access points, some still slipped through the cracks. Note 1. Every month, the shadow layer resets, replicating real-world scenes anew. During this time, the number of aberrations increases, requiring timely clearing. Note 2. The shadow layer is contaminated. Prolonged exposure deepens contamination, leading to loss of self and transformation into an aberration. Note 3. Fourth-tier experts entering the shadow layer will suffer power suppression and significantly increased contamination risks. Avoid entering unless absolutely necessary. Note 4. Visibility in the shadow layer ranges from 3 to 5 meters, expanding with increased strength. So this is what the world's dark side means. I carefully recalled my experience. When I entered using Shadow Eye, I felt no discomfort at all. It was like returning home, utterly relaxed and at ease, with clear long-range vision unaffected. Too bad shadow points are limited, so I can't stay for long. The melodious music played in my ears as I continued reading, coming across the term, transcendent, a being with a human body yet belonging to a different species. My gaze paused, and I looked up at Lu Yaoyao, who remained expressionless, clearly unsurprised. She spoke, "Don't look at me, focus on the material." The text continued, "Transcendents hunt and kill anomalies, bearing the cost, wielding power yet also being eroded by it. Unlike ordinary people who succumb to corruption, when transcendents lose control, they fully transform into anomalies, losing all reason." Note 1. Transcendents are themselves conglomerations of corruption, constantly battling against corruptive transformation. Note 2. Upon death, the power within a transcendent runs rampant, with a high probability of turning them into anomalies. Note 3. As transcendents, if you realize survival is impossible or highly improbable, please exhaust your power before death. I stared at the final line highlighted in red and bold, my breath slowing. The aptitude test in the second semester of senior high determines qualifications for the martial arts exam. Only then does the door to transcendence crack open slightly. Only by passing the martial arts exam and entering university can one truly access such content. I don't understand why it's arranged this way, but the Nightwatch Division and Great Joe must have their reasons. Rubbing my temples, I muttered, "That's a lot to take in." Scrolling down, I saw the Word document spanned over 20 pages, with an unknown number of PPT slides remaining. I said again, "Come here, give me a back rub." Lu Yaoyao was stunned and said, "Say that again?" I said, "3 original artworks, Ultra HD, contents up to you." She immediately said, "Deal." Then her small hands rested on my neck, kneading as she asked, "Why is it so stiff?" Recently I've been working out, because the effects of shadow training can be synchronized to my physical body. It's worth mentioning that my strength keeps growing noticeably, but my physique hasn't changed much aside from becoming slightly more swollen. I haven't developed those lumpy muscles yet. When I put clothes on, at most I just look a bit more robust. Lu Yaoyao asked me, "Have you worked out those abdominal muscles?" I smirked and replied, "Of course. Wanna feel them?" With a click, the door suddenly swung open. Standing there was Lu Nanfeng, his head displaying HP 97%, his face dark with an ominous aura that faintly radiated killing intent. Lu Yaoyao's outstretched little hand froze in place, and my own crooked, Dragon King-like smirk stiffened along with it. Afterwards, we gathered around the long table in the living room where the aroma of dishes filled the air. 3 bowls of rice were set out, and the 3 of us each took a seat at one side. Lu Nanfeng, clad in his night watchman's uniform, shoveled food into his mouth with fervor. Seated across from him, I too worked diligently on my meal. His face darkened even further. Lu Yaoyao spoke weakly, "Dad, you've misunderstood." Lu Nanfeng chuckled coldly, "Misunderstood? Am I wrong when I saw it with my own eyes?" Lu Yaoyao stammered, her ears turning slightly red. "Is there anything more mortifying than getting caught by your dad while sneaking a feel of a male classmate's abs?" "Well, actually, yes, like stubbornly claiming you're not interested in comics, only to pull an all-nighter reading them and end up completely fired up." Lu Nanfeng couldn't help speaking up first. "Let this kid have his say." "Alright then, I'll say a few words." Clearing my throat, I raised my glass and said, "Dad, no. Uncle Lu, no words are needed, I'll punish myself with 3 drinks." Damn, Uncle Lu was probably thinking I'd grown some guts, and likely reaching for a knife by now. When I was 5, I competed with Lu Yaoyao to see who could pee the farthest. At 7, just starting elementary school, I beat up all the kids so badly they wailed. By 12, graduating from elementary school, to celebrate, I took Lu Yaoyao and a few other pals to the streets pretending to be homeless beggars only for kind-hearted strangers to call the orphanage hotline. The parents were practically frantic with worry by then. Until a year ago when I suddenly started drawing comics, those cringe-worthy action scenes were downright embarrassing. I was the classic bad kid everyone warned about. No wonder Uncle Lu was exhausted, wondering why his daughter kept hanging out with me every day. Lu Nanfeng took out a cigarette and held it between his lips, but before he could light it, Lu Yaoyao plucked it away. He asked, "What were you two up to when I got back?" I replied truthfully, I was reviewing materials about variants and supers. His gaze sharpened as he looked at Lu Yaoyao. "You gave them to him? Girl, you've got quite the nerve." Lu Yaoyao shrank her neck slightly, then began to act spoiled. "Dad, isn't there a cassette tape? Plus I'll be keeping an eye on everything. Nothing will go wrong." Lu Nanfeng's expression gradually grew serious. "What exactly did you take?" Lu Yaoyao assured him, "Just some explanations about the supernatural and the shadow layer, absolutely nothing else." Lu Nanfeng glared at her, "Spoiled brat." Then he relaxed slightly and turned to me, asking, "Do you know why we don't let students come into contact with these things in advance?" I had some guesses in my heart, but still couldn't quite articulate them clearly. He explained, "Hearts differ, breeding evil naturally. Despair can drag a person into the abyss. Some things are not meant to be revealed to everyone." I didn't quite understand this. It sounds somewhat mystical and obscure. He continued, "Not everyone possesses strong enough willpower. Even the slightest crack in one's heart can give those alien entities an opening. That's why qualification tests are required before the formal martial examination. Physical aptitude and willpower aptitude. These ensure he's qualified and capable of accessing the extraordinary world. The path of transcendence is treacherous, with obstacles at every step. Even with medical instruments assisting in treatment, people still lose control every year. Tragic indeed. If you're not planning to take the martial exam in the future, I wouldn't advise you to learn about these matters." I chuckled lightly and said, "Isn't this year's martial exam mandatory? There's no escaping it. Besides, it's better to depend on yourself than on others. There's no harm in gaining more knowledge." He replied, "All right then. When the sky falls, the tall will bear the weight. Just stay level-headed." As soon as he finished speaking, the communicator at his waist suddenly vibrated violently. He answered the call. "Hello, Captain Lu. Shadow Layer emergency mission. Got it, be right there." Hanging up the communicator, he quickly wolfed down a few bites of food before springing to his feet. Shooting me a glare, he said, "I'm off on a mission. Jiang Yu, you better behave yourself. If I catch you again, next time I'm dragging you back to the Night Watch division." With that, he hurried out the door. I sighed. Uncle Lu always rushes around like it's an emergency. Lu Yaoyao replied, "The division's been swamped with cases lately. Half the time he can't even finish 2 bites before another mission comes in." With father finally gone, Lu Yaoyao let out a relieved sigh and picked up her bowl to start eating. Mid-bite, she suddenly remembered my earlier behavior, eyes widening as she slapped the table with her small hand. "Jiang Yu, what exactly did you mean by that earlier? Trying to make my dad misunderstand on purpose, huh?" I retorted, "You're overthinking it. You're driving me crazy." She stood up, dashed over, and pinched my cheeks with her small hands, pulling them outward. Not willing to be outdone, I retaliated by pinching hers back. After some playful roughhousing, she ended up flushed and flustered, cursing me as a scoundrel and a rogue. After finishing dinner, I left the girl's house and headed out of the neighborhood. I had originally planned to review more materials to understand the changes in myself, but Uncle Lu returned earlier than expected. Given his temperament, I suppose he'd gather all the materials and stash them away? I had to coax the girl endlessly just to pry out 2 or 3 basic facts. What a ripoff. I left the neighborhood and walked along the road until I reached the supermarket. With the new year just 10 days away, the store had already begun decorating with bright red hues. Blessing characters and couplets were stacked at the entrance, with customers occasionally stopping to inquire about prices. Posters from the Night Patrol Division were displayed on shelves and counters. The main bulletin featured a uniformed night patroller against a backdrop of blazing fire, accompanied by a simple slogan, "Patrolling at sunset, guarding Yunhai's peace." Inside the supermarket, I grabbed a bottle of soy sauce and vinegar from the household goods section. But as I approached the checkout, my phone rang. Lu Yaoyao's voice came through. "Damn you, Jiang Yu, grab me a carton of eggs and a carton of milk, and, never mind, that's all." Great. I figured there were probably feminine hygiene products involved. After a moment's thought, I threw 2 boxes of condoms into the basket. Better safe than sorry. I carried a large bag, the soy sauce and vinegar bottles clinking together with a tinkling sound. The cold wind howled, seeping through the gaps in my clothing, sending a chill down my spine. There was still 1 month left before school started. Initially, the shadow training had shown excellent results, but as time went on, the effectiveness gradually diminished. Simply doing exercises alone still fell somewhat short. With only a month remaining, I wasn't sure what level I could reach. I let out a long sigh. That wandering spirit at the neighborhood entrance probably wasn't considered too strong among the aberrations, after all. The truly powerful ones would have long been dealt with by the night patrol department. Even so, it took me 3 days to painfully grind down just 6% of its health bar, averaging 2% per day. But far more terrifying than ghosts, I've already lost count of how many I've seen in the shadow layer. A century ago, the world plunged into the great cataclysm. Alien species invaded, leaving misery in their wake. Countless ancestors paid in blood for the relative safety within our current settlements. Yet beneath this fragile tranquility lurks another reality. This year's mandatory martial examination, anyone scoring above the passing threshold will enter the transcendent world. Essentially, they're forcibly expanding recruitment numbers. Any fool could see such a policy isn't implemented without reason. Insufficient frontline personnel? Lack of new recruits? Who really knows? The walls on both sides of the road were plastered with posters bearing slogans written in bold red characters. Expel the alien species, restore our great show. My footsteps faltered slightly as my pupils gradually constricted. At the intersection to the right, the entrance to my residential complex was faintly visible in the distance, with no shadowy spirits lurking in the gloom. To the left, about 100 meters away, 2 health bars came into view. HP, 24% HP, 14%. A young night watch officer in a dark blue uniform stood leaning against the wall, barely managing to stay upright. His left leg was broken, his body riddled with ghastly holes, and his skin covered in horrifying black veins. His hollow, empty eyes made for a terrifying sight as he limped forward. Behind him, 2 youngsters clung to each other, having fainted from fright. I recognized them. They lived in the same high-rise as me, just on different floors. We had crossed paths a few times before, though we'd never spoken. Strange that we should meet again under such circumstances. Opposite the man stood a slender figure over 2 meters tall, its lower body devoid of legs, a ghostly, floating entity equally wretched in appearance. Ink-black blood oozed from its wounds. Its right arm ended in a broad, razor-sharp claw, resembling a sickle meant for reaping leeks, broken and dangling from the midpoint. The left arm bore a monstrous claw, its outstretched palm larger than my head. This floating phantom had only 24% health remaining, while the night watcher was down to 14%. I stood frozen at the crossroads of the path, staring blankly. Chapter 7, Lin M.O., the Night Watcher. My name is Lin M.O., a 25-year-old clerical staff member at the Night Patrol Department, specializing in contamination studies with a focus on pollution identification and prevention. I started interning at the Night Patrol Department during my junior year of college. Today, just as I finished my day's work and was heading home, a hideous hand suddenly appeared, grabbing 2 kids by the roadside and forcibly dragging them into the shadow layer. My mind went blank in an instant. Without time to notify the Night Patrol Department, I instinctively leaped forward only to be pulled into the shadow layer along with the children. It's always been the otherlings emerging from the shadow layer to harm people in our world, but yanking humans directly into the shadow layer? I'd never even heard of such a thing before. With a sudden burst of strength, I kicked away Apiao's arm and shielded the 2 kids behind me. When I came to my senses, I was drenched in cold sweat. Damn it, I'm just an office worker, and not even on duty right now. I didn't bring any anti-contamination equipment, yet here I am walking straight into the shadow layer. My abilities are suited for combat alright, but my willpower isn't. Prolonged exposure to the shadow layer causes irreversible contamination. Besides, I've been doing desk work for years, forgotten 60% of the combat skills I used to have 10 years ago. What made me think I was still that spirited young man at 20? Fuck. I clenched my teeth, glanced at the kids behind me, and quickly tapped my wristwatch. The unidentified material of the watch emitted a faint glow as I threw it to the 2 kids, grinding out the words, "Hold on to this." The activated wristwatch could emit dim light, offering brief mental protection while continuously sending out distress signals. But in this shadow layer, the chance of rescue arriving anytime soon was pitifully small. It's of little use to me. Better to toss it to the kids. Whether they survive or not will be left to fate. I looked up, where there should have been a rift leading back to the real world. Now only a smooth, unbroken wall remained. The way out was gone. I turned my gaze back to the culprit. In the shadowy depths, my vision barely stretched 7 or 8 meters. Beyond that lay only darkness. That ghostly figure was tall and lean, its contours brimming with restrained power, its massive side unnaturally sharp, striking fear at a glance. Judging by its presence, it was at least mid-tier first rank. When I was 18 and in college, my freshman year was devoted to fundamentals. By second year, under my mentor's guidance, I hunted rankless aberrations, and the final exam was slaying a low-tier first-rank aberrant. I don't believe in fate. I always thought I could work hard to become a combatant, but ultimately failed. By my sophomore year, I transferred from the martial arts department to the superhuman arts, and now I'm just an ordinary clerk at the Night Patrol Bureau. The spectral creature was chewing something, its four-cornered mouthparts stained with blood at the edges. It was digesting its previous prey, in no hurry to attack. 4 eyes, walking on all fours, semi-beast form, a pathetic hybrid. I kept sizing it up, searching for weaknesses. My fists trembled slightly as 2 white cloth strips unwound, which I quickly wrapped around them. My eyes burned with killing intent, like a boxer stepping into the ring. Inhale, exhale. A piece of flesh slid off the specter's body. Like a starting whistle, we charged at each other simultaneously. A massive scythe grazed past my scalp as I ducked, my right fist gathering immense power before driving into its abdomen. Then, twisting my torso, my left fist shot upward like a rising dragon straight to its chin. The familiar sensation returned, but in the next second, my smile froze on my face as a Piao's massive palm swatted my arm aside. Its towering height of over 2 meters compared to my modest 1.75 meters made the difference too great. Stumbling from the blow, my arm went numb with pain. My mind had registered the danger, but my body lagged behind. I'm really not what I used to be. With gritted teeth, I charged forward again. We exchanged blows, its scythe grazing me with wounds that split flesh each time, narrowly avoiding decapitation, dancing on the edge of a razor's blade. A stinging pain spread across my skin as I felt the shadow layer corroding me. My slender limbs struck without effect, barely landing a scratch, while I dodged frantically, my movements clumsy. No more delays. Black mist swirled in my eyes, and a Piao's movements hesitated. I had activated a shade's power, blind. This ability wasn't particularly strong. Those with sufficient willpower and talent could join the combat division. Unfortunately, I hadn't made the cut. Using abilities as a transcendent means accumulating contamination. Since switching to desk work, I've hardly ever used my powers, but today it seems I have to go all out. I raised my arm and threw a standard punch aimed straight at the ghost's chest. The impact sent a numbing shock up my arm. The ghost was momentarily blinded, but it quickly adapted. It began flailing wildly, and one of its massive fists struck my chest, sending me flying backward. Nearly a ton of brute force slammed into me. Even with my transcendent physique, my chest caved in from the blow. Cough. Blood surged from my mouth, mixed with fragments of internal organs, leaving my face pale. A mid-tier first-rank opponent is far stronger than a lower-tier one. Damn it! The ghost charged again. With no time to think, I took a deep breath and didn't dodge, instead meeting its attack head-on with a punch of my own. Blood splattered, some bright red, some dark blue and black. The battle grew vicious. Using my mortal body, I battered multiple parts of the ghost to pieces, but I wasn't faring much better myself. With a sickening squelch, the sickle plunged into my scapula and jerked outward, tearing away a chunk of flesh before a punch sent me flying. Blood dribbled through my fingers as my consciousness began swirling. I lifted my head, my face smeared with grimy blood. Ever since entering the shadow layer, retreat was impossible. I had to kill this damn specter first, then find night patrol officers to lead me out. Unfortunately, under normal circumstances, I stood little chance. My chest heaved as I stood motionless, fingertips trembling slightly while waves of pain assaulted my consciousness. I felt nauseous too. A bitter smile twisted my lips. A mid-tier first-order creature, any combat-specialized student could solo this level of aberration single-handedly. Why was it so damn difficult for me? At age 15, I watched my loved ones die at the hands of the aberrants. At 18, during the awakening ceremony, I chose the martial path. By 20, in my sophomore year, I was forcibly expelled from the combat class. At 21, I entered the Night Watch Bureau as an intern doing clerical work. 4 years have passed since then. The war between humans and aberrants has raged for a century. No peace, no stalemate, only relentless retreat. I lift my head to the sky where dark clouds blot out the sun. Who can see hope anymore? Death is the daily norm for those beyond ordinary. I smile silently, fishing out a small blue pill from my pocket and popping it into my mouth. The black patterns in my pupils intensify until they consume my entire eyes, while dark tendrils creep across my body. Tremendous power surges from my battered flesh. A fierce grimace twists my face as I growl. Filth, round 2, begins. Chapter 8 Decapitation, health points 0. With a loud shout, I charged forward, my fist shrouded in a dark glow as I clashed with A Piao. Without hesitation, A Piao retaliated with equally fierce punches. Our battle grew faster and fiercer, moving at speeds no ordinary person could possibly trace within the dim confines of the Shadow Realm. The patterns wriggled across my skin like tadpoles, but ultimately, it still came down to the disparity in strength and environmental factors. After countless rounds, I watched as Linmo's body slammed against the wall before slowly sliding down, his face contorting in pain. He gasped desperately for breath, his mind swimming in dizziness. He probably thought to himself, even after taking drugs, I still couldn't win, I'm utterly worthless. His eyes were hollow, his body covered in dark patterns, and he smiled bitterly, appearing ready to face death. Right then, I crushed the egg in my hand and cursed, "You damn little brat. Couldn't you stay at the neighborhood gate? Had to come here instead?" The moment I spoke, Linmo's mind reeled in shock, but he quickly dismissed the idea that I was a night watcher, thinking my voice sounded too young and my tone didn't match. He then wondered if I was an awakened being who had entered the shadow layer, but immediately dismissed that thought as well. After all, why would a normal person just wander in here? And besides, most entrances to the shadow layer were tightly controlled by the inspection bureau. Unless some reckless young awakened had stumbled upon a crack and barged in, he probably thought anyone who did that must have had a death wish. Lin Mo had intended to call out a warning to me, but as soon as he opened his mouth, an excruciating pain swept through his body. A wave of weakness crashed over him, causing him to stumble and collapse onto the ground. Meanwhile, on my side, the battle had already begun. I could see the ghost, HP, 23%, its remaining sliver of a health bar dipping slightly lower. After landing a punch, my body recoiled violently backward. At full health, this ghost was not only immensely strong but also frighteningly agile. The slightest graze from its attack would send my HP plummeting. But now, with this bastard down to such low health and severely injured, I reckon I stood a chance. If things went south, I could always just retreat. In a burst of recklessness, I finally chose to charge into the shadow layer. When enemies meet, their eyes blaze with fury. I took a hard slap right from the start. This wraith was exceptionally enraged. With a shrill screech from its mouthparts, it charged at me aggressively. I grabbed the soy sauce bottle and lunged forward, delivering a crushing blow to its skull. The wraith swung its blade head-on, shattering the bottle at its waist as dark brown liquid splashed, narrowly missing me as I rolled aside. My right arm muscles tensed as I threw a punch. The wraith's HP, 23% to 2%. From our previous clashes, I'd already learned its attack patterns, either swinging its sickle or forming a massive fist to hammer my head. Now that the sickle has been disabled by the night watchman, leaving me with just my fists, I feel the advantage is mine. Pressing my attack, I gouge at the bleeding wounds on my opponent's body, reducing the ghost's HP from 22% to 20%. The health bar drops again. I intended to strike again, but suddenly the ghost's body trembled violently, lashing out with a tail swipe. Its smoke-like tail slammed straight into my chest. With a heavy thud, the impact came with the faint sound of bones cracking. The force sent me flying backward, crashing into an incredibly hard wall. Cough. My entire body felt shattered, my mind utterly dazed. After a few seconds, pain engulfed me like a tidal wave. My face twitched slightly as I clenched my teeth and forced myself up. I had no choice. The ghost was charging again. Its piercing screech tore at my eardrums, sending sharp pain through my ears. It's badly injured on its right rib area. Aim there. Lin Mo leaned against the base of the wall and gritted his teeth as he spoke. Got it, I replied, rushing forward. The ghost clearly knew about its own injuries, deliberately twisting its body to the left to hide the wounded area. That damn thing, I cursed under my breath, swiftly changing direction and charging my left fist, narrowly dodging its punch before countering with a blow to the ghost's abdomen. Apiao, HP, 18%. With health below 20%, Apiao's agility visibly dropped a notch. I realized it was about to die. Yet the ghost was ferocious beyond measure. Its fist rebounded and struck my abdomen once more. My eyes flew open, bloodshot, as my body shot backward like a cannonball. This force was even greater than the previous tail whip. My stomach churned violently, as if my internal organs had shifted. Damn it, this bastard with less than 20% health left nearly punched me to death? My limbs went limp, and I lay on the ground for several breaths before mustering enough strength to get up. Wondering why Apiao didn't press his advantage, I looked up to see the creature heading straight for the two kids behind the night watchman. I figured it couldn't win and was going for a health refill. My pupils constricted. I don't know where I found the strength, but I managed to roll forward in one motion, snatched the vinegar bottle from the ground, and hurled it at Apiao with all my might. Crack! Unfortunately, this was just an ordinary vinegar bottle I brought from outside, devoid of any special properties. As the bottle shattered, the ghostly figure turned its gaze. Barely had its attention been diverted when, in the very next instant, the half-dead blind man unexpectedly erupted with formidable strength, his leg whipping out like a cracking lash to strike the creature squarely in its kidneys. Afloat, HP, 18% 15%. A straight drop of 3 percentage points. When facing such critically low health reserves, even a 1% loss could turn the tide of battle. It barely had time to kick Lin Mo away before facing my pouncing figure, powerless to dodge. I pounced like a hungry tiger, wrapping my arms around the other's waist as we tumbled forward. After scrambling to my feet, I pinned it beneath me. The specter's body was twisted and misshapen, riddled with dents, its wounds weeping blood in a pitiful sight. I'm no better off than it is, with broken ribs, skin torn open, a hole in my head dripping blood, face bruised and swollen, covered in dust and grime, yet with a ferocious expression. I raised my fist and brought it down. Bang! The punch landed heavily on the opponent's face. Ghost, HP, 14%. An alien species, huh? I raised my fist again and swung. Bang! You bastard! Keep yapping. Eating people, huh? Eat this, motherfucker. Ghost HP 13%, 12%, 11%. Every punch struck true. A few drops of blue-black blood splattered and landed on my face, sizzling. Compared to the pain in my body, this minor sting was insignificant. The wraith became aware of its predicament, its towering 2-meter frame writhing frantically. Yet no matter how violently it struggled, I held it down firmly, rendering its efforts utterly futile. I possess no dazzling combat skills, merely striking, dodging, and counterattacking. My crude fighting style would likely be easily bested one-handed by any night patrol officer. Yet no one has the right to mock this blazing fighting spirit of mine. Gasping for breath, beads of sweat formed on my forehead and body, while my heart pounded fiercely as if trying to leap right out of my throat. Thud! Spectre HP, 10%. A crimson dot abruptly materialized at the spectral figure's heart, pulsing with an unsteady glow. What was this? Instinct outpaced reason. I hadn't the chance to ponder before my right fist already lashed out like thunder, smashing through the glowing red mark. Time seemed to freeze at this moment. Ghost widened its eyes, staring fixedly at me. Execute, I murmured with a heavy grip. Suddenly, Ghost's struggling force vanished as its body stiffened. The last remaining 10% of its health bar gradually faded away like a fading gradient. A variant capable of slaughtering dozens of ordinary humans had thus met its end. The luster in its compound eyes dimmed bit by bit until all signs of life were extinguished. My chest still heaved violently, my breath ragged. My vision swam in layers as I glanced down, then around. This fierce battle had left almost no trace within the shadow layer, only splattered blood on the ground and shattered bottle fragments bore witness to the life or death struggle that had unfolded here. The blind night watcher lay half collapsed on the ground, his clothes tattered, his exposed skin interwoven with deathly black veins. The two children had long fainted from terror, their frail bodies shrouded in the waning glow of fading white light. My wet hands brushed the stray hairs back from my face, leaving streaks through the blood that obscured my features. Only a pair of gleaming eyes remained clearly visible. My Adam's apple bobbed as I thought. So this is an aberration, compared to the others I'd encountered in the shadow layer. This one was frail, barely clinging to life with only 20% of its vitality. Were it not for the Night Watcher's timely aid, it would surely have been my end. I blinked, dazed. Suddenly, an image flashed through my mind. Lu Yaoyao pushing open the door to Uncle Lu's room. The furnishings glimpsed for a fleeting moment, among them, a map. A sprawling map, its outline sketching the contours of the Great Zhou territories, almost identical to my past life's world, yet even more expansive by 2 whole rings. The entire southern region was pitch black, while the east, central, and northern areas bore 5 massive crimson symbols, each marking a first-tier sanctuary under the current regime. The rest were scattered red dots, like fireflies beneath the night sky, tiny, insignificant. And amidst them, the Cloud Sea sanctuary burned as faintly as one such speck. The scorching sun, the world's dark underside, extraordinary powers treading on thin ice, fragmented territories, faint sparks of hope. Some revel in extravagant indulgence, others scream from the shadows, those who remain silent, those who fight fiercely, and those already gone. This is the Great Zhou, a reality known to many, yet unknown to many more. Chapter 9, Gazing Afar. Hey, still alive? Why so quiet? Lin Mo's weak voice snapped me out of my delusional daydream. Cough, still here. The wound twinged as I coughed lightly. A sudden surge of instinct arose, my shadow devour ability relentlessly urging me to consume the corpse before me. I stepped forward, grabbed Ah Pao's arm, and activated my ability. Moments later, that massive figure began to dissipate inch by inch. I wasn't in a hurry to open the handbook to check my own status panel. Instead, I turned to look at Lin Mo. The health bar above his head had stabilized at 10% and stopped decreasing further. 70% HP counts as minor injuries, 50% HP indicates more serious wounds, 30% HP represents critical condition, and 10% HP signifies near death. Before the cataclysm, the survival rate for such injuries was about 30%, maybe even just 20%. At 5% HP, you'd barely have time for last words if you could even manage them. But these metrics are for ordinary people. Those with supernatural abilities can still unleash formidable combat power even when severely injured. Although this Night Watch officer's health has dropped to 10%, given the Great Zhou's medical standards, he should survive, right? I dragged my heavy body closer to him. Help me up. To lean against the wall, Lin Mo managed to say with difficulty. Grabbing his arm, I supported him as we moved toward the wall. Even this simple action left me gasping for breath, my own energy nearly depleted. My shadow ability has no physical form, and the only functions I've discovered so far are for exercise and copying texts, otherwise I wouldn't be in such a sorry state. You're not from the Night Patrol Division, are you? Lin Mo asked between breaths. No, I replied, glancing at his hollow eyes. Clearly, he didn't recognize me, which was hardly surprising. Beyond sharing an elevator a few times, we'd never interacted. If he could recognize me while being blind, that would have been truly unbelievable. Hey, I knew it. Lin Mo grinned cheerfully and said, I was just wondering if you were a colleague from the Night Patrol Division. But seeing how much trouble you had dealing with even a mid-level Tier 1 anomaly, I figured you definitely weren't. I was left speechless. Just kidding, cough cough. Mid-sentence, he began coughing violently, his face alternating between pallor and flushing. After forcibly swallowing the blood that rose in his throat, he chuckled again and asked, "Which university do you go to, kid? What year are you in?" "Baidu Academy, starting sophomore year this semester," I casually made up. "Hey there, junior." To my surprise, Lin Mo raised an eyebrow with a hint of delight in his tone. "What's your major, arts or martial sciences? Bro, need something?" "Nothing, I'll head out first." I slightly opened my mouth, momentarily at a loss for words. Fortunately, he continued on his own. Must be martial sciences. Arts majors wouldn't stand a chance against mid-tier first-order opponents. He chuckled lightly, rubbing his fingers together. "Little buddy, got any cigarettes?" "I've got candy cigarettes," I replied hesitantly. "Candy cigarettes? Well, that'll do. Hand one over." I patted my pocket, only half a stick remained. My gaze drifted to the ground where several candy cigarettes lay shattered, crushed during the fight. "Only half left," I said. I divided the remaining half into two again and held it out to Lin Mo's mouth. "You little rascal," Lin Mo said with a mix of annoyance and amusement. "So stingy." "Well, I'm not exactly rolling in it either," I replied. "There's still a bit left on the ground. Want me to pick it up for you?" I offered. "Get lost," Lin Mo cursed playfully. The two of us fell into silence, savoring the sweet taste in our mouths. Then the battered night patrolman spoke up first. "Was this your first solo hunt for anomalies?" "I suppose so," I nodded. "Sometimes I really envy you guys," Lin Mo sighed. "Martial arts stream, combat exams, battle specialization, born with natural talent. Not like me, weak willpower qualifications. A guy in his 20s who took far sight still can't even handle a single mid-tier first-order aberrant. Maybe you should stop talking and conserve your energy while waiting for rescue to arrive." I hesitated. The ability to freely enter and exit the shadow layer was absolutely not something outsiders should know about. But judging by Lin Mo's current condition, he wouldn't die immediately, though being trapped here indefinitely could change that. Lin Mo paused, then laughed weakly. "I just wanted someone to chat with me." Before I could respond, he continued, "The willpower of us desk workers is like cotton fluff. No matter how much there is, its nature remains flimsy. When the tide of corruption comes surging in, how could it possibly withstand?" Cough. His violent coughing sent his health bar fluctuating dangerously, nearly dropping further. "Did you ever regret it?" I asked softly. "You could have chosen a regular humanities track. And why would an office worker like you venture into the shadow layer?" "Regret? Hell yes, I regret it." Emotionally agitated, Lin Mo coughed several times before continuing after a long pause. "As an office worker, I could have slacked off at work, chatted with girls whenever I wanted, and happily trained rookie night watchers. Wouldn't that have been a sweet life? Must have been out of my damn mind, charging in here on impulse. And now, can't even get out. Do you think you can hold out until rescue comes? You don't look so good." After a moment's thought, I asked. Lin Mo weakly waved his hand. "The distress signal's been sent. Just depends on when they'll show up. You don't need to think about sneaking around behind my back. If you run into another mutant species with your half-baked skills, you won't even be a decent snack. My elder brother is perfect in every way, except for being such a chatterbox." I stay silent. "Oh yeah, if you go back to the academy, apologize for me to Director Joe from the Martial Arts College's Supernatural Techniques Department. Tell him I failed to live up to his expectations, couldn't even take down a mid-tier first-level mutant." Lin Mo grinned, and thanked Deputy Director Huang from the Supernatural Literature College's Contamination Studies Department for me. "Tell her I appreciate her teachings. Also, advise her to tone down the Chinibu act during lectures. All that passing the torch, humanity endures stuff is downright cringy." "Oh, almost forgot." Seeing him about to continue, I smiled bitterly and interrupted. "Bro, maybe you should wait till I grab a notepad, or better yet, tell them yourself after you recover." "Ah." Lin Mo shook his head with a smile. "These words have been bottled up in my heart for so long. I just wanted someone to talk to." "Baidu Watchman Academy, huh?" He let out a long, inscrutable sigh. Then he looked up. "Any more smoke candy? Give me 2 more. I want the spicy strip flavor." "Really out," I said. Suddenly, my ears twitched. Footsteps were approaching rapidly. "Must be the Night Patrol Division, you're saved." I sighed in relief. "Looks like my luck's holding, my colleagues are right on time." "Planning to stick around?" Lin Mo asked. "Nope, off you go then." He forced out a faint smile. "Okay." I gave him a deep look, nodded, and my figure gradually faded from this shadowy layer. A patroller spotted, with 2 children beside him. Check their vital signs. No sooner had I left than 3 patrollers arrived on the scene. Suddenly, I paused mid-step. My half-turned body swung back around. Beneath shadowed pupils, I observed the world's dark underbelly. Though unable to hear the sounds within, I saw one patroller approach Lin Mo, did something indistinct, then shook his head. My gaze shifted, lingering on the figure slumped against the wall. The other gave a feeble smile as the health bar above his head suddenly wavered, dropping at an alarming rate of 1% every 2 to 3 seconds. The black lines on his body seemed to come alive at this moment, twisting wildly like earthworms. Two night patrollers stepped forward, lifted the child, and cradled him in their arms. Then the three stood still, palms facing downward, fingertips aligned with their temples, performing the night patroller's salute. Beside them, passers-by walked by in twos and threes. The fried tofu isn't selling well today. That's enough. Let's stop selling for these few days and prepare for the new year. Alright, another new year is coming. I stood in the middle of the road, occasionally receiving glances from passers-by before they brushed past me. Staring blankly, the streetlight divided the world and my eyes into two halves. Suddenly, a prompt echoed in my mind, attention, as an extraordinary, if you realize you cannot survive, or the probability of survival is low. Then another line of text appeared, please exhaust your power before death. I thought of compound number 3, codenamed Gaze into the Distance, which massively overdrafts one's potential upon consumption, with a mortality rate as high as 90%. Once taken, it signifies being trapped in a perilous situation from which there's no conventional escape. Stand upon the earth, gaze at the stars. Patrol the night for heaven, gaze into the future. This brief line, underlined in the book, is but a thumbnail of countless lives sacrificed in succession. The Night Patrol Division, rooted in the mortal world yet transcending it, performing supernatural feats with human flesh, we are all gazing into the distance. I couldn't help but wonder, if I hadn't been hit by that manual, if I hadn't activated the golden finger, my circumstances would surely be different now, just an ordinary person. Most ordinary people rarely encounter paranormal events, but once they do, their chances of survival are extremely low. Even low-level entities like wandering spirits, mere small fry in Lin Mo's words, could easily massacre dozens of people if left unchecked. So imagine what stronger paranormal beings could do. As Lin Mo's health bar depleted to zero, his corpse was carried away, leaving the shadow layer before me eerily empty. I tugged at my tattered clothes, now barely more than shreds of fabric. Needed to hurry home before catching a cold in this wind. I quickened my pace toward the residential complex. Clear Moon Heights was considered mid to high range among Yunhai Settlement's high-rises. As an orphan, I'd gotten this apartment through Uncle Lee's connections with the Night Watch Department, though precisely what methods he'd used remained unclear. Uncle Lee, missing an arm, was a man of few words who worked a desk job. I suspected he'd skimmed quite a bit of silver from the department. How else could he have afforded such a place? I slowed my steps as I reached the residential compound's entrance, turned my head, and took one last glance at the distant road junction where paths diverged. Gathering my scattered emotions, I stepped inside. Arriving at my building, I pressed the elevator button and ascended. Worse luck, my phone had been destroyed during the fight. Forget the 30+ gigabytes of resources, what truly stung was losing over 20 premium account credentials. Just thinking about it twisted my heart. Unable to conceal my gloom, I slid the key into the lock, turned it, and heard the click as the door shut behind me. After that battle, this key was all I had left. Yet that wasn't entirely true. The handbook had shown some reaction after absorbing the aberrant creature. I just hadn't had time to check it yet. I took off my completely split shoes, swapped into slippers, and glanced at the side mirror. It displayed, HP, 50%. My mind screamed WTF, thinking my half-dead state, riddled with severe injuries and struggling to walk, would have left me at best 20% or 30%. Turns out I still had half left? How did Lin Mo hold on with just 10% HP back then? The thought made me slightly moved, sighing, that was brutal. Sighing, I walked to the living room, opened the fridge, pulled out 2 sausages, then grabbed a cup of instant noodles from the ramen box nearby. Just then, a voice suddenly came from the couch. Where are the eggs? I froze mid-motion, instinctively pulling my clothes tighter. How'd you get my house key? I asked. You order takeout every day instead of cooking. Uncle Lee asked me to look after you, so he gave me a spare key, Lu Yaoyao began. Couldn't reach you by phone, couldn't find you anywhere. Told you to buy eggs, and you went to fetch them from the chicken coop? With a click, she turned on the light, flooding the room with brightness that illuminated my back. In one hand, I held an instant noodle cup, in the other, a packet of ham sausage. Noticing my grubby appearance and the torn holes on the back of my shirt, she crossed her arms, frowned, and stepped closer. Turn around, she demanded. You should go back to bed. I regretted not washing my face first after coming home. Turn around. Lu Yaoyao slowly realized something was wrong. I'm hungry, just making some noodles, I said, stepping forward only for her to grab my arm the next second. She yanked me backward, and when I turned around, she froze. Beneath the hood, strands of hair were streaked with traces of blood, her face covered in dust and dried grime. A scar stretched from her earlobe to the corner of her mouth, left by a Piao's nails. Lower down, the front of her clothes was even more tattered. The cuffs appeared rolled up, but in reality, they were too torn to look at and had been forcibly pushed up. Exposed skin showed extensive abrasions, red marks, and ruptured capillaries that had healed poorly. Deeper wounds were also plentiful, barely scabbed over, some even still oozing blood. Her chest was sunken inward, clearly from broken ribs. I forgot to buy eggs, I said, stepping back and turning away again. But Lu Yaoyao suddenly leaped in front of me, her gaze severe. What are you doing? I avoided her gaze. It's so late. If Uncle Lu finds out you're still here, he'll kill you. Where exactly did you go? Lu Yaoyao asked. Nowhere special. I rubbed my nose. On my way back, there was a robbery, so I stepped in. Don't let my sorry state fool you, that guy got it worse. When the police arrived, they barely recognized him as human. Seriously, you should have seen how fast I was. Left hook, right hook, combo punches hammered him so hard even his mother wouldn't know him, utterly indistinct from livestock. Mid-sentence, I abruptly swallowed my words as the girl extended her hand. Her slender, jade-like fingers lightly brushed the wound on my face and I froze. I swear, the delicate touch of those spa girls downstairs with their 3,000 yuan hands couldn't hold a candle to the gentleness of Lu Yaoyao's fingers before me now. A silence fell between us. 1 second, then 2. I took another half step back and said, it doesn't hurt. Just go back to sleep. I'm telling Uncle Lee about this. No. You went out in the middle of the night to gang fight. This wasn't fighting, it was upholding justice. Now please go back, young miss. I won't. Digging in her heels, Lu Yaoyao looked at my injuries and wavered between the urge to scold me harshly and unwillingness to be too hard on me. I'm quite exhausted today, let me rest a bit. I rubbed my temples. With injuries like these, you should go to the hospital. Never mind, they look worse than they are. I know my limits. The house is fully stocked with all kinds of medicine. Uncle Lee embezzled quite a lot from the night patrol department. Lu Yaoyao ultimately softened, giving a light hum while pursing her lips. Let me apply the medicine for you. After a brief silence and unable to resist her insistence, I nodded, all right. There followed a series of hisses and gasps. I hadn't made such agonized expressions even when fighting those spirits. We used up most of the bottle of special medicated liquid, wrapping layer upon layer of bandages until I nearly resembled a mummy. Still want to show off next time? She patted my arm hard enough to make me grimace, asking with a stern face. No, definitely won't, but in next time. Swear to me. I won't. Lu Yaoyao froze. It's human nature to join in the fun. At most, I'll just take a look, I won't go in. What are you talking about? I mean, I'm just looking. I won't do anything. I promised. Good to know. Lu Yaoyao felt something wasn't quite right about that statement but couldn't pinpoint exactly what. Then she got up and left. Leaving already? Why not stay the night? My bed's big enough. In your dreams. The door slammed shut, leaving me alone in the vast house. Lying on the bed, staring at the ceiling, the scenes from earlier kept flashing before my eyes. Baidu Watchman Academy, help me pass on a message. Martial arts, superhuman arts. Wait, buddy, you haven't even told me your name yet. I suddenly realized something. After a while, the light screen shimmered, displaying the 3 characters, human, divine, aberration, which flashed by quickly before pausing on aberration, then slowly expanding. The screen displayed name, wraith, species, shadow, specter, level, mid-rank first tier, description, and inferior abyssal aberration belonging to the shadow and specter species. It exhibits extraordinary power in darkness. If it sets its sights on you, watch your back. Note, this aberration doesn't seem quite so ordinary. I stared at the contents in the manual. Killing cost was a fractured arm. Shadow devour gain was acquiring the abilities Shadow Strike and an increase in shadow points. There was also a note indicating that this aberrant creature had been recorded and that the cost had been exempted. For a moment, I couldn't quite grasp the intricacies here. This was the second creature to appear in the manual besides me, and I was puzzled. Does merely killing someone automatically register them in the manual, or does it require Shadow Devour for the registration to occur? But I decided to set this minor question aside for now. With a slight flicker of thought, I expanded the details of my newly acquired ability, Shadow Strike. It stated, when launching an attack from the shadows where others cannot see me, I would find it easier to pinpoint their weak spots, and the first strike would inflict massive damage. I carefully sensed the usage of this skill, then stood in the corner of the room and closed my eyes to perceive the shadows in darkness. But after a while, I felt like nothing had changed. Looking like an utter fool, I stood there for 5 minutes before stumbling out with curses. Any onlooker would probably think some mummy was hiding in the corner. Uncertain, I guessed that maybe there was no target to activate it. Setting that aside for now, I opened the manual and scrolled to the section marked person. It displayed my information, name Jiangyu, attribute, shadow points, 1414, rank, with stalker marked as available, abilities, including Shadow Devour, Shadow Pupil, Shadow Form, and the description for stalker, red, killing in the shadows. I am a natural-born assassin. When concealed within darkness, I will move like a fish in water. There's another line that reads, lurking in the darkness, hunting in the dark, and I couldn't help but quip, shouldn't it be hunting in the light? This crappy cheat ability even pulls out game dialogue. I continued reading. The description of shadow form stated that my shadow had undergone a transformation, allowing me to manipulate shadows and merge them with myself to enter a special state. In this form, firstly, I would no longer have vulnerable spots. Even decapitation would only drastically reduce my health rather than kill me outright, though a footnote added that HP would drop by 99% if my head were chopped off. Secondly, my presence would become far more subdued, blending seamlessly with the shadows to avoid detection, while my physical abilities and healing capacity would see a massive boost. Thirdly, training in this state would yield unexpected gains. Lastly, I could use this form without consuming any resources within the shadow realm. But in the physical world, it would cost shadow points. Reading no vulnerable spots made me pretty happy at first, but seeing that fine print almost made me laugh in frustration. I scoffed, a 99% HP reduction? Might as well just kill me instead. But complaints aside, this ability seems anything but ordinary. I stood still and beckoned. The shadow emerged, standing opposite me. Slowly raising my hand, the shadow mirrored my movement until our fingertips touched. In that instant, the shadow flowed over me like liquid pouring over my body. The sensation was pleasantly cool, wrapping around me perfectly, snug against every inch of skin yet impossibly breathable, more comfortable than any fabric. Looking down, I saw darkness coating my palms entirely, with nails, veins, and even skin texture obscured beneath it. When I turned to the mirror, my reflection showed a figure engulfed in flowing, fog-like ink, dull even in the eyes where only deeper shades hinted at their form. Feeling the dwindling reserves of shadow, I dispersed the darkened form. There are 2 ability-related items left. I see the words available to activate but don't understand what they mean. With a slight thought, I tapped on it, and a prompt appeared saying I already possess partial authority over this rank, though it hasn't been formally awakened. Activating it would fully awaken this rank, making it exclusively mine. No one else could awaken any branch abilities under it. However, there are certain risks involved in this operation, and it asked if I wished to proceed. The words certain risks were even highlighted in red. I read it several times carefully before falling into deep thought. After a full 5 minutes, I took a deep breath, glanced at the no option, then quickly looked at yes. Unexpectedly, the yes option began to flicker, and a surge of warmth flooded my body. I cursed inwardly. What the hell? I wasn't even fully chosen yet, damn it. The luminous screen kept shifting until it finally stabilized. The new designation was Hunter, with an introduction stating I was a born hunter. My attacks would inevitably deal damage, though external items like guns, arrows, or poison were exceptions. Even deities couldn't escape me. The more mysterious I remained while lurking in the shadows and the more fearsome my reputation grew, the more unexpected rewards I could reap. There was also the execution ability. When my prey's health dropped below a certain threshold, their health bar would turn crimson, revealing a weak spot for me to strike. Attack there, and I could trigger execution, obliterating the prey completely. However, the threshold for execution was influenced by factors like relative strength, abilities, and designation tiers. My eyes lit up like stars. Any skill involving instant death was no joke. Right now, I had 14 shadow points, 6 more than before my showdown with Ghost Girl. These points served dual purposes. They were my internal energy reserve and the XP bar for advancement. Moreover, after unlocking the designation and gaining new abilities, I felt stronger than ever, like I could punch out 10 Ghost Girls, 30 Uncle Lise, or 80 Lu Yaoyaos in one go. This newly unlocked status effect seems incredibly powerful, but no matter how hard I searched, I couldn't find any indication of so-called risks mentioned. Could this be a bluff? Just then, I felt a slight tingling sensation at my wound. Removing the bandage, I gently rubbed the area, and a small scab came right off. The new skin beneath appeared completely normal. Even under close inspection or with a magnifying glass, there were no visible abnormalities. This wound had only been inflicted yesterday. While not severe, even with high-performance medication, it would normally take over a day to heal enough for the scab to fall off. Yet after activating shadow form, for merely a few seconds, it had healed to this extent. The enhanced regeneration effect exceeded my expectations. Suddenly, I recalled the deep, 15-centimeter gash on my abdomen likely inflicted when that ghostly figure attempted to give me an impromptu cesarean section. I wondered whether this too had healed under the influence of shadow form. At that moment, voices of his friends came from outside. Yao Yao, what exactly happened to Jianyu yesterday? I saw his social media post saying he bravely stood up against a criminal, performed a set of military combat moves, got stabbed 88 times without even blinking. What? He told me privately it was a human trafficking ring, and he fought through them with a watermelon knife from one end of the street to the other without even blinking. Lu Yaoyao sighed helplessly. Don't listen to his nonsense. He was just chased by a wolfhound. With a ding, the elevator arrived at their floor, and they stepped out. I heard the slightly chubby male classmate ask Lu Yaoyao, "Hey, Yaoyao, how come you have the key to his place?" Lu Yaoyao said, "Jianyu's uncle shoved it at me." The other two drew out their voices in a long O. Then came the crisp sound of a click as the lock turned. Ah! A scream pierced the air as the door swung open, revealing my terrifying figure, shirtless, blood gushing from my abdomen, one hand clawing at the wound, with a face twisted in unbearable agony. I reckon the slightly chubby male classmate looked at me with completely changed eyes. At that moment, he'd probably believe me if I said I'd taken a watermelon knife and hacked my way to the southern heavenly gate yesterday. Chapter 12, Shadow Form, Re-entering the Shade Layer. Chubby Lu Yuchang stared at my abs in astonishment and exclaimed, "Jiangyu, are those abs real or fake?" We'd been childhood friends who went through elementary, middle, and high school together in the same class. Beside us, the bespectacled girl Feng Xiaoxiao, who wore her hair in twin tails, looked at my abs with eager curiosity and teased, "Sure you're not on steroids?" Feng Xiaoxiao's family was in the catering business, and she was Lu Yaoyao's best friend. All right, everyone out. Lu Yaoyao pushed them both out of the room before turning to glare at me. "Jiangyu, what's gotten into you in broad daylight?" "I just wanted to check how my wound was healing," I said, holding a cotton swab dipped in antiseptic as I gently dabbed it on the injury. Hiss, damn, that hurts. After those people leave, I must slip into the shadow layer and activate my shadow form to thoroughly absorb the energy. Clumsy hands, just leave it there. Lu Yaoyao sharply slapped the back of my hand. "Then you do it for me." I put down the cotton swab and leaned back against the sofa. "Your brain must have been kicked by a donkey. Why would you reopen perfectly fine wounds?" Bear with it. I know this medicine, it doesn't hurt at all." Lu Yaoyao kicked me. I caught a glimpse of her blue and white anklet socks, pure white at the base with wavy blue patterns at the cuffs. Her foot, no larger than a palm, had 10 toes with indistinct outlines. Further up, her slender ankle seemed delicate enough to crush in one's grip, her milky white skin looking irresistibly smooth. I couldn't help but think, while they looked good with socks on, they might look even better without. "Stop peeking." Lu Yaoyao tucked her legs to the side, dodging my gaze. "So perverted at such a young age. I'll have Xiaopang come and apply the medicine for you." No, he's too clumsy for this," I said, my Adam's apple bobbing. "Uncle Li must have gone too long without teaching you a lesson," Lu Yaoyao scoffed coldly. "Even if he taught me 800 lessons, it wouldn't make a difference," I added silently in my heart. Lu Yaoyao dabbed at the edges of my wound with a cotton swab, applying medication. After a long pause, she suddenly spoke again. "What were you really doing yesterday? Don't tell me it was robbery. Guess whether I'll believe that or not." I forced an awkward smile as I prepared to spin a lie. Truly chivalrous and righteous, stepping forward in times of danger, I strained to explain. "Ha!" Lu Yaoyao scoffed coldly. "Full of hot air, there's not a single truthful word from you. Right? How could I tell her that yesterday I ventured into the shadow layer to slay an aberrant, then somehow ended up discussing life with a night watcher? That would sound even more ridiculous. What time did Uncle Lu get back yesterday?" I opted to change the subject. She didn't reply. Lu Yaoyao glanced at me. "Why do you ask?" "I just suddenly realized night patrol officers have it pretty tough. Working day shifts, then overtime at night." I sighed. "And the job's extremely dangerous too. This world was never as calm as it appeared on the surface. Most people just never got the chance to see beneath the facade." Lu Yaoyao pressed her lips together, remaining silent. Dangerous didn't even begin to describe it. From joining the night patrol division to becoming an officer, then going on missions into the shadow layers, venturing outside city limits into the wilds, few martial professionals live to peaceful old age. Those with worse luck could meet mishaps even in clerical positions. Uncle Li lost an arm, and Lin Mo died in his early 20s. Lu Nanfeng appears unscathed, but in truth, his body is riddled with scars. Years ago, he suffered a severe injury that damaged his foundation. Unless a miracle happens, he'll never advance further in this lifetime. "If you pass the martial arts exam and major in martial studies, would you join the Night Watch division?" Lu Yaoyao asked. "I don't know." I hesitated slightly. Are there many pretty older sisters in the Night Watch division?" "Shut your mouth." A vein visibly throbbed on Lu Yaoyao's forehead. We were applying medicine in the room, while Lu Yuchang and Feng Xiaoxiao exchanged baffled glances in the living room. "What's going on with those two?" Feng Xiaoxiao's mind went blank. "I don't know." Lu Yuchang hesitated, wondering whether to reveal what I'd previously told him about my lustful thoughts towards Lu Yaoyao. "Just between you and me, Lu Yaoyao once told me she was craving." "Oh, never mind. Finish your sentence. Leaving it half-finished doesn't count for anything." Little Fatty choked on his words. Not long after, I pushed open the door and walked out, clothes neatly arranged, looking fairly decent despite the bandages covering my body. "What brings you here?" I nodded slightly, not looking at all like a patient. "We came to see how you're doing after listening to your wild claims yesterday." Lu Yuchang pointed at my chest and asked, "Are you okay?" "Don't worry, I won't die." I waved my hand dismissively. "You didn't see it, I was just coming back from the supermarket with a bottle of soy sauce, vinegar, and some other miscellaneous things." Suddenly this huge guy flashed by, clutching a bag to his chest. "This guy's showing off again," Lu Yaoyao pouted as she got up and headed for the door. Her gaze flickered to the pile of clothes stacked on the washing machine in the bathroom. "Jiangyu, I'm heading to the supermarket. These two clothes are torn, should I toss them out while I'm at it?" she called out. "Alright, toss it then." I was too engrossed in my story to look up. Back then, 80 burly men charged from the woods, and I wielded my blade, swift strikes left and right. Suddenly, something occurred to me, and I hurriedly raised my head. Wait a second, I've got something in those clothes. But it was already too late. Lu Yaoyao's expression shifted from confusion to dumbfoundedness, then to utter disbelief. Her hand clenched tightly around a shriveled little box. The room fell into dead silence. After much coaxing and lying, whether she bought it or not, at least I finally managed to shoo all three of them out. Well, so much for my illustrious reputation. After hesitating a few seconds, I pocketed the crushed little box. Money spent is money spent, after all. After tidying up the room a bit, I stood firm in the living room. Shadow gaze. My breath deepened as the colors in my eyes abruptly shifted. A swirling haze of ink-like darkness flowed within my pupils. Within my field of vision, hues gradually transformed, and after roughly 2 or 3 seconds, the entire living room was draped in a layer of shadow. Shade form. I murmured under my breath, and instantly the shadow at my feet crawled upward from my soles. My oversized shorts and small t-shirt transformed in the blink of an eye into a vaguely human-shaped mass of darkness. Ha! I exhaled a long breath and clenched my fist. The shadow layer harbored contamination. Prolonged exposure would exact various tolls from the body. Ordinary Nightwatch operatives are advised to complete missions within a single day. Exceeding this timeframe without taking medication or employing other means to resist contamination could lead to consequences ranging from intensified pain, dizziness, and blurred vision, to severe cases of sensory disarray and bodily mutation. The duration of residence is related to one's own rank, willpower aptitude, and other factors. But, this feeling, it's beyond mere comfort. It's like someone who's long lived in an industrial polluted environment suddenly arriving at an endless, pristine grassland of pure nature. Sweet air pierces the heart, a single breath sends tingling sensations throughout the body, as if electricity were coursing through. Every cell rejoices, greedily absorbing the energy within the shadow layer. Hooray! Entering the shadow layer feels just like returning home, so utterly comfortable. Chapter 13, The Shadow Aberrations Frenzied Training. The shadow form, I discovered its practical application far surpassed the basic description. The enhancement to physical attributes goes without saying. I poked at the abdominal wound and found the pain remarkably muted. Instead, my entire body felt cool and comfortable, which was pretty damn impressive. Just this aspect alone was game-changing. With reduced pain sensitivity during fights, nobody needs to worry about me getting kidney shot anymore. After using various medicinal solutions and resting overnight, my health had recovered to 60%. The speed was astonishingly fast. I'd initially planned to lay low for a while, but now, that didn't seem necessary anymore. I leaned my body forward, spreading my hands shoulder-width apart with palms positioned at waist level. I engaged my core, arched my back, and straightened my arms. After rounding my shoulders, I lifted them upwards while keeping the tops of my feet touching the ground. Then, with both arms exerting force, my toes gradually lifted off the ground until my body became completely parallel to the floor, at which point I began performing planche push-ups. This type of push-up is extremely challenging. It requires fully supporting the body's weight with just 2 arms while maintaining a rigid, plank-like posture. For most ordinary people, even holding the position would be impossible, let alone completing a single repetition. As my body slowly descended, beneath the pitch-black shadow, my facial expressions were particularly intense. Ever since I'd made the shadow train daily, my physique had grown noticeably bulkier, expanding 2 full sizes, before finally plateauing. At first glance, he still looks handsome and sunny. But the truth is, my strength has indeed reached the point where I could knock out Lu Yaoyao with a single punch. Otherwise, why don't you try having an ordinary person trade a few blows with a ghost? One swipe of its tail, and the person would be gone on the spot. Even so, I wouldn't dare claim I could do dozens or even hundreds of planche push-ups in one go. But this shadow can. It has no health bar, infinite stamina, and never tires. 5 seconds per planche push-up means 12 per minute, 720 per hour. That's the terrifying capability of the shadow. An average person's monthly quota, effortlessly achieved in a single day. And now, in shadow form, I find myself accomplishing this with ease. This is utterly insane. With both arms exerting force, I lowered my body before straightening them to push myself up high. Then my torso descended horizontally, stopping when my chest hovered mere centimeters above the ground. Another burst of arm strength sent my entire body soaring upward again. I maintained perfect, machine-like precision from start to finish, each movement as steady as clockwork. With every inhale and exhale, that crisp, sweet air penetrated straight to my core. My entire body buzzed with tingling warmth, feeling nothing like strenuous exercise, more like luxuriating in a sauna. This shadow form, it's got something special, no doubt. My gaze burned with intensity as I opened the manual, line after line of combat logs scrolling before my eyes. Activating shadow form, entering shadow layer. You feel your body completely liberated, utterly free. You begin attempting training. During training, Shadow Devour activates. You consume the darkness from the shadow layer. shadow points slightly increase, physical fitness slightly improves. Every time I completed a set of planche push-ups, the logs would refresh with new entries. Switching to dragon flag abdominal rolls, the logs continued updating, though the attribute gains showed slight variations. After half an hour, I wasn't the least bit tired. Catching my breath, I stepped out of the shadow layer. Practicing indoors felt somewhat cramped. Going outside would be better. Taking the elevator downstairs, I exited the building and found a deserted corner where I re-entered the shadow layer. At the center of the residential square stood various workout equipment often used by elderly fitness enthusiasts. I couldn't name them all precisely, but the pull-up bars and parallel bars were great for arm strength and full-body workouts. There was also another setup, 2 vertical posts with multiple horizontal bars in between, perfect for ab exercises. Multiple styles to choose from, and no old-timers fighting me for machines. For the first time, I discovered working out could be this addictive. Right then, starting with 2,000 sets of killer sit-ups. Meanwhile, the night patrol headquarters buzzed with activity. Most people walked briskly, their expressions solemn. Inside a small conference room, several night patrollers sat around a table with Lu Nanfeng at the head, weariness etched across his face. Reports came in detailing the unprecedented scope of this shallow abyss disturbance, abnormal energy fluctuations, surging contamination levels, and widespread zones of impact. Teams B3, B7, and A2 had detected suspected rift traces across the northern, southern, and eastern District 1 sectors respectively. Unlike past random distributions, this outbreak concentrated heavily in residential areas. The briefing tensed everyone in the room. The shallow layers had never been stable. Night patrol teams routinely ventured in to purge aberrations while maintaining daily patrols across Cloudhaven settlement. Their duty included hunting down newly emerged shallow access points, sealing what they could, improvising solutions for what they couldn't. These past 2 days, the entire Cloud Sea Night Patrol Division has been working around the clock, barely managing to keep the situation under control. This time, the anomalies shattered decades of established understanding. For the first time, they started abducting people into the shadow layer. This means anyone could be suddenly dragged into the shadow layer while at school, off work, or even during a meal. During this riot, such incidents occurred in total. Then they heard the word rift mentioned again in the report. It's important to know that the aberrations emerging from the abyss, those with purer bloodlines, are far more dangerous than those from the shadow layer. Even the smallest, weakest abyssal rift poses an extreme threat to human survival. At this moment, the one-armed man sitting in the corner spoke softly to comfort everyone. Gradually regaining their composure, the group settled down as Lu Nanfeng signaled the night watchman to continue their report. The discussion lasted a long time, and it wasn't until many policies were formulated that the meeting finally concluded. Carrying a stack of documents, Lu Nanfeng walked toward his office. No sooner had he sat down than someone knocked and entered, informing him that the investigation team had compiled a list of aberrant species and sent it over for his review. Lu Nanfeng briefly flipped through the pages. Before turning more than 2 sheets, a particular entry caught his attention. Designation, D2-9527, codename, the shadow that salutes while working out obsessively. The description stated it was an entirely black, shadow-like entity first discovered at the central garden of Qingyue residential area. It was presumed to have accidentally wandered in. This target showed no signs of fatigue, possessed extreme enthusiasm for fitness, and would utilize exercise equipment. With low aggression levels, it would even pause its workout to salute when detection personnel approached. Reading this string of exaggerated descriptors, Lu Nanfeng's usually restrained expression betrayed traces of suppressed amusement. Had it not been submitted by the night patrol, he might have suspected it was some bored netizen's poorly photoshopped prank. He glanced at the attached photo, just a pitch-black blob. Putting down the documents, Lu Nanfeng lightly rubbed his temples. There were less than 10 days until the new year, and everyone was looking forward to the holiday, but at this critical juncture, the shadow layer was acting up. He gloomily tucked a cigarette into his mouth and walked to the window to light it, only to bite down and realize it was banana-flavored candy tobacco. He knew immediately that this had to be Lu Yaoyao, that bratty girl's doing. Just then, a voice rang out in his office, "I have real tobacco if you want some." Lu Nanfeng turned around helplessly. The one-armed man from the meeting room earlier was now sitting on his sofa. The man tossed him a cigarette pack. Lu Nanfeng caught it out of habit but hesitated before setting it down, saying he was afraid of getting lung cancer. The man told him the higher-ups had issued another notice. The martial exam had been moved up again. Lu Nanfeng hurriedly returned to his computer to review the documents. After reading them, he let out a soft sigh. Whether it was aptitude evaluations or martial exams, everything had been moved up. The one-armed man asked Lu Nanfeng if he'd decided which path to enroll Lu Yaoyao in, martial arts or extraordinary liberal arts. Lu Nanfeng replied they'd wait to see her aptitude test results first, then countered by asking the man about his own son's plans. The man said he wouldn't enroll his boy in spiritual arts, xenobiology, or extraordinary human studies. He'd have him take regular liberal arts instead. Lu Nanfeng nearly thought his ears were deceiving him, but the man just stood up, said he wouldn't explain further, and went out for a stroll. Let me tell you something, spider meat is deliciously tender and juicy. If you scorch off the surface hairs with intense flames, the fur comes off easily. Take a bite, and the texture is unlike beef or mutton, more like spider meat. But all this is just my nonsense, don't try it, or you'll be in serious trouble. I'm Jiangyu, currently in the shadow layer, with a microphone clipped to my collar and a phone in my right hand aimed straight ahead. About 20 meters away, a massive creature crouches on the ground, its 8 legs sturdy as steel, eyes fixed directly on me. I can even see its oval-shaped abdomen. This mutant is probably asleep, completely motionless. If not for the glaring, 64% health bar hovering above its head, I'd think it was dead. Its body is about the size of a compact car. Recently, numerous videos of the shadow layer have suddenly flooded major streaming platforms. According to Lu Yaoyao, such videos were previously banned from being uploaded or shared. These days, however, the Night Patrol Division seems intent on spreading awareness, wanting more people to learn about the shadow layer. I just registered a new Vibe account and tried uploading a few clips of shadow layer landscapes. To my surprise, they passed the review and even garnered hundreds of likes. I keenly sensed an opportunity here, but that wasn't the main point. I checked my attributes: name, Jiangyu, attribute, shadow, tier, stalker, hunter, remaining lifespan, 100H. The hunter tier description read, erupt during the hunt or perish in it, hunt or die. Upon awakening this tier, you are ecstatic, knowing that only through continuous hunting can you prolong your life. Go forth, relish every hunt, become the terrifying predator everyone fears, until you advance. There was even a parenthetical note, but all I could think was, what the hell? You call this certain risks? Last time I activated the rank, I didn't notice anything unusual. But the next day when I opened the panel, good lord, a glaring life countdown stared right back at me, with barely 7 or 8 days left. It nearly made me faint on the spot. Upon awakening this rank, you are overjoyed, my foot. With barely any days left to live, what joy is there to speak of? After 3 days of struggling, I'm down to my last 100 hours. If I can't successfully hunt down an aberration, my only option is to turn to Uncle Lee for help. Anyway, Uncle Lee at the Night Patrol Division already has a reputation for embezzling houses, tobacco, alcohol, and money. A few more aberrations wouldn't make much difference, so I'm panicked, but not completely panicked. At least there's a fallback plan. The only comforting thing was the content in parentheses bold and red, impossible to miss, suggesting death wasn't necessarily absolute. How absurd. Did they expect me to become a wandering ghost or something? Given the choice, I'd still prefer being human. I stared at those words for a few seconds, still unclear about their meaning. Whatever, no point dwelling on it now. The hunter definition required widespread notoriety. I wonder if being an influencer with 1 million followers would count. No time for that, better finish off this giant spider first and earn some extra lifespan. Both my phone and number were internal use only devices Uncle Lee had embezzled from the Night Patrol Division. As long as I didn't cause trouble, no one should technically be able to trace them. Even if my videos went viral, they couldn't track my personal info. I can gather more footage and edit it into a video to post later. Just talking dryly into my phone felt lacking. After some thought, I adjusted the camera to focus on myself, stepped back 2 or 3 meters, raised a steel pipe in my hand, and said, for all things exotic monkey coins, truth or fake, I'll tell you straight. Hey everyone, I'm Xiao Jiang, facing this exotic giant spider, all by myself. Once that was done, I secured my phone in place and attached a few small cameras to my body, ensuring they wouldn't interfere with the fight. Then I pressed close to the wall, inching toward the spider's rear. Activating shadow form, I blended almost seamlessly into the layer of darkness, slowing my steps to make myself even harder to detect. We're getting closer. From now on, I'll stay silent to avoid startling it. After giving this instruction, my gaze grew solemn. This was different from dealing with Apiao before. Back then, Apiao was critically wounded and weakened, and I just got lucky. Though this spider was wounded, its remaining 60% health was still no small matter. Training and scouting the shadows around the neighborhood, I barely spotted any weak creatures within half a kilometer. Humans kill anomalies, anomalies kill humans, and they even slaughter each other. The truly weak either hide so well they're impossible to find or get devoured by other anomalies. Originally, there were 3 weaker anomalies near the neighborhood, but while I hesitated, they vanished. Survival isn't easy for bottom-tier anomalies either. I examined the steel rod, slightly unsure how to wield it. This solid steel bar had cost me thousands, with some unknown metal embedded at the tip to increase lethality. I tested it, hitting my own leg really hurt, so it should hold up for a few fights. The spider suddenly raised its head, scanning its surroundings. I immediately froze, holding my breath as I hid in the darkness. Then, faint red patches appeared on its body, around the spinneret, legs, the joints between head and shoulders, and abdomen, their shades varying and shifting slightly with the spider's movements. This was the effect of Shadow Strike, allowing me to identify the enemy's weak points. My spirits lifted. The darkest red was near the head, followed by the rear. I thought about going for a headshot, but the size difference was too great. I doubted I could jump high enough, so I'd have to target another weak spot instead. Having been in this world for a while now, this fellow named Spider quite likes the current environment, far less oppressive than the abyss, and without so many powerful and terrifying aberrations. A small fry like it can survive just by being cautious. Not long ago, it had fought another variant, relying on its high agility and burst damage to tear the opponent apart before devouring it. Though injured, a few more sleeps would suffice for recovery. What worried it was the possibility of other variants ambushing it while it was wounded. So while it appeared to be sleeping, it remained vigilant, keeping guard over its surroundings. Just now, it keenly detected an eerie chill, instantly becoming alert as it twisted its body uneasily, its 8 crimson compound eyes scanning the surroundings. In the Shadow Realm, the vision of the anomalous creatures was slightly better than humans, but still limited. Given its rank, it could clearly see only about a dozen meters ahead. After scanning the area several times without detecting anything unusual, it dismissed the sensation as a trick of the mind and prepared to move elsewhere. But the moment it stood up, it felt like an electric current surged through its body. Its mind went completely blank, losing all ability to think. Numb. The entire spider went numb. HP. 64% 44%. One strike from me took away 20% of its health. Previously, my attacks relied solely on brute strength, with shadow points accumulating inside me yet finding no way to be utilized. But with that last strike, I felt an indescribable force surge out along with my blow. The exhilaration almost made me roar out loud if not for the spider's blood splattering all over me, snapping me back to dodge. I thought dealing with 60% HP would be troublesome, but the remaining 40%, I assumed I could hold my own. Bang! Like a meteor, I was sent flying, crashing into the nearby wall. The structures in the shadow layer were tough. At most, I left a small dent before slamming to the ground. Hiss, doesn't hurt. I gritted my teeth. That hit had knocked off at least 10% of my HP, maybe even 15%. HSS. The enormous spider writhed as it turned around, giving me a clearer view. Its terrifying body was etched with dark purple patterns that formed bizarre markings, the stripes shifting as it moved. Its body resembled a spider's, but its head looked like an inverted triangle drawn without a ruler. The lines were skewed and devoid of aesthetics. 7 or 8 tentacles flailed haphazardly along its cheeks, and when it bellowed, its mouth revealed jagged, uneven teeth. Staring at the massive spider before me, its 8 eyes unevenly spaced across its pockmarked, noseless face, I couldn't help but think this abomination could easily be a mini-boss in a horror film. I shoved the steel rod all the way into its body, and its health dropped from 44% to 40%, clearly severely injured. It writhed on the spot for a long time but couldn't dislodge the rod, continuing to bleed steadily. I shook my head, gathered strength in my feet, and retreated back into the darkness. That's right, I was going to use Shadow Strike, this powerful technique of ambushing enemies from the shadows. It's the innate skill of a natural assassin. There was no need to engage this aberrant creature head-on. Taking a step back, shadows spread from my feet and enveloped my entire body. This ability of a stalker, a hunter, something that had felt strange at first, now seemed practically tailor-made for me. Staring at the massive spider, growing increasingly enraged yet unable to find its target, I thought to myself, between aberrance and the transcendent, who is truly the hunter, and who the prey? Glancing down at the camera, I decided pretending to be a comedy content creator didn't suit me. If I was a hunter, then I should hunt seriously. Staying silent might just make the outcome even better. I grabbed the second steel rod I'd prepared nearby with a backhand motion and murmured softly, "The hunt begins." Meanwhile, Li Xiaodi was a senior high school student with average academic performance, enough to get into college but not the top universities. Her business owner parents pulled strings to secure her preliminary qualification tests, which confirmed her potential to become superhuman, though her actual talent level would require official testing after school began. Previously, authorities had suppressed information about anomalies in superhumans, leaving ordinary people largely uninformed. But recently, Douyin videos explaining these subjects had proliferated. Most were dryly instructional, yet their novelty attracted widespread attention as many had never encountered this hidden world. Xiaodi had scrolled through numerous bird's-eye view videos of the shadow layer with millions of likes, gaining some understanding of it. She sensed official encouragement behind this trend, but as someone yet to walk the superhuman path, she couldn't quite grasp its purpose. She lay in bed scrolling through videos, watching all sorts of chaotic nonsense, her expression gradually twisting in disgust as she quickly swiped away. Suddenly, a soft cough sound came from her phone. She swiped back and saw a video with a dark, gloomy aesthetic, the camera aimed down a long street, partly obscured by a leg, shrouded in black mist, while shadowy figures climbed and leaped in the distance. The cinematography, voice acting, and soundtrack are all fascinating, like a blockbuster with special effects. Her spirits lifted. The camera pans gently, flashing glimpses of one aberrant creature after another, even zooming in right up to their faces. Then the lens lifts toward the rooftop's edge, revealing a blurred shadowy figure. My name is Yu, I'm from Baidu, the shadowy figure said before leaping down. Li Xiaodi gasped, what on earth was this? She double-clicked the screen and saw 200k likes and over 70k comments. The comments section had turned into a massive mating call arena. Feeling a duty to intervene, she forwarded the top comments to their followers and left her own remark, "Big bro, I'm available." As she kept watching the video, a shadowy figure leaped from midair and landed 6 stories up. Li Xiaodi's eyes burned with excitement. Was this a superhuman? The scene shifted again, the camera seemingly tracking his perspective as he hunted for prey. The rustle of wind and his soft breaths were audible. The lens focused on a massive spider at the center of the road. You introduced it softly as a shadowweave spider, an inferior hybrid species from the abyss. Then he melted into the shadows and vanished. Not only Li Xiaodi, but many viewers were also straining their eyes to spot him. The equipment made it incredibly difficult to capture his detailed movements in the shadows. Then he emerged from the shadows, and the footage slowed down to show the spider writhing as the long pole pierced its body. The ensuing fight sent blood splattering, utterly realistic, clearly not special effects. Then the scene accelerated as he hid once more. The spider could only spit acid and silk, but most of its attacks missed him completely. The disparity in their strength was evident. As the long stick pierced the spider's head, it staggered and collapsed. Standing beside it, I pulled out the stick and shook off the blood, then placed my palm on its body and said, "Now then, feed." I stared at the spider, tightening my grip as its massive body gradually dissipated. Streaks of shadows coalesced into lines that leapt toward me, weaving into a long, hooded robe, along with a belt, shoulder guards, and a complete set of decorations, all in varying shades of black, mysterious, and lethal. The hunt is over. The scene abruptly cut off. Li Xiaodi gasped, realizing this big shot had serious skills. The video was electrifying, like skyrocketed to 300,000 in minutes. At this rate, half a day might push it past 500,000. I scrolled through the comments. Yep, even more thirst messages now. I swiped right to enter the user's profile. My avatar was just the back of my head, a dark, indistinct blob. The profile is brief, just one short line, commence the hunt. You've got to follow this, where else would you find such a cool yet shinibu blogger? Someone named Li Xiaodi gulped hard, realizing all those pretty boys she used to fawn over were nothing compared to this. This was what a real badass woman should be watching. She quickly hit follow, then slid into my DMs. Hey, wanna exchange WeChat? Assassination mission, high pay. I skimmed through the manual's entry on the shadowy spider. It's a low-tier, mid-rank abyssal variant of the ancient demon species. The patterns on its body indicate its strength. The denser and more intricate the lines, the more potent its mental corruption. Don't stare at it for too long. Its abilities include acid spray, web spinning, and ancient demon corruption. Killing it comes at the cost of sensory confusion, but absorbing its shadow grants the shadow silk ability and boosts shadow points. Plus, since this variant's already been catalogued, the usual penalties are waived. After the shadow points broke through 10, the manual added an abilities section where I could view the abilities of recorded creatures. Among the shadow web spider's 3 abilities, acid and web spinning were easy to understand, while ancient demon corruption referred to the mental impact caused by the patterns on its body. Watching the steadily increasing likes and follower count in the backend, I let out a long sigh of relief, feeling like I hadn't made the wrong move with this strategy. I opened the fan backend, thinking about checking if there were any JK-style girls in white stockings, and contemplating how to quickly get them into the fan group to chat with me. Don't be fooled by how cool my videos look. The bittersweet struggles behind them are something I can't easily explain to outsiders. I'm just a newbie who's barely dipped my toes into the supernatural world, without much real strength to speak of. The giant spider and the ghost were on the same tier, with the spider having even higher health. Even though I had the advantage of shadow ambush, the hard gap in strength couldn't be bridged. I'd strike and run, smash and dodge. Shadow form could reduce damage and pain, but even that couldn't hold up against repeated attacks. The videos looked dazzling, but in reality, it was all about editing, dialogue, and soundtrack. I even crafted myself a memory loss assassin persona. After all these maneuvers, the audience was completely fooled. Hunting anomalies and unlocking new abilities post-consumption, people probably assumed it was all for the plot's sake. The internet? Consider it thoroughly played by me. I spread my palm, watching black threads dance across it. This shadow thread ability was the spoils after devouring the spider. My control over shadows was no longer limited to the shadow form. I could now solidify darkness into tangible threads, launching them with both resilience and impact. If I wanted, I could even cosplay as Spider-Man. I reopened the manual, flipping to the personal stats page. Remaining lifespan, 7 days. Killing the spider had added 3 more days. Still urgent, but enough for now, enough to track down another anomaly. Reading further down, the manual revealed that as a predator, I could see my prey's health bar and had access to mark and hunt abilities. My attacks would always deal damage. Moreover, my fearsome reputation had unlocked some of the predator's authorities. Mark allowed me to more easily detect and strike my prey's weak points. Marked prey would suffer debuffs, but activating the ability consumed stamina and could potentially reveal my location. With preys marked by hunt, I gained buffs to agility and strength. A successful hunt could enhance an attribute or ability, while the ability itself consumed no resources and lasted the same duration as mark. The viral success of short videos had unlocked these two abilities for the predator. Hunting variants, editing clips, earning views, and unlocking new skills, this routine boosted my strength at an alarming rate. Ow, that hurts. I winced as Lu Yaoyao remarked sarcastically, instead of staying home like you should, who did you go pick a fight with this time? She applied the medicine with even more force. I grimaced and begged her to go easier, saying I went out to be a hero and that she should stop talking if she didn't understand. Gnashing her teeth, she retorted that of course she understood, of course I was the hero, and added that if I kept going out to fight every day, she'd tell Uncle Lee. I told her not to worry, saying that even if I couldn't win a fight, I could always run away, and that I knew my limits. She scoffed, finished bandaging my wound, then leaned back on the couch and started scrolling through videos. A familiar line drifted into my ears, and I froze before asking what she was watching. A glance at the screen revealed my own edited final product. Lu Yaoyao said Wander had been trending recently on Douyin's hot search list, with topics like classifications of aberrants, the world of the transcendent, and the shadow layer dominating the past few days. Several transcendent influencers had also emerged, so Wander was riding a wave of popularity. I asked her why transcendent knowledge was being made public when it wasn't supposed to be. She explained that only core knowledge was restricted, what everyone was seeing now was just basic stuff, harmless enough. She added that with the Lunar New Year approaching and marking the first centenary of the Cataclysm, policies had shifted significantly this year. She also suggested I follow the Wanderer content creator, saying his videos featured actual battles against anomalies in the shadow layer, pretty interesting stuff. My expression turned a bit odd as I thought to myself, that giant spider took me hours to take down. If the videos seem interesting, it's probably just clever editing at work. Lu Yaoyao kept watching with great interest and soon came across a fan-made video about the Wanderer. Then, she had a sudden brainstorm, wondering if she could record some videos and upload them too. Maybe she could go viral. I teased her, asking if she was planning to dance in the shadow layer wearing a JK outfit and thigh-high white stockings, glancing briefly at her legs wrapped in those very stockings. She defensively stepped back, saying she could record videos explaining supernatural phenomena instead. I scoffed and told her not to think she could rival veteran nightwatchers just by skimming through some materials. I also warned her not to go outside dressed like that next time, she might attract some creep. I even admitted losing track of one such stalker myself last time. She suspected my injuries were from doing shady business undercover and getting beaten up, so I quickly raised both hands in surrender. I realized my frequent joking might have given her the wrong impression. She used to bring fruits and snacks when visiting, but now she always carries a gun. I'm terrified one wrong word might get me shot. She scoffed and lowered her hand from the gun, letting me finally exhale in relief. She asked if I wanted to go New Year's shopping with her the day after tomorrow, since the holiday was approaching. I agreed. Chapter 18, Clout Chasing? Confirmed. Having a beautiful childhood friend really is great. I lowered my head and tugged at the bandages, still tightly knotted. The girl had tied them firmly, but not so tight they restricted movement. Her small hands were quite deft. Actually, for injuries like these, I could just enter the shadow layer in my shadow form and recover gradually by doing a few sets of exercises. As the daughter of a night patroller, she grew up in that environment. I'm not sure if she's noticed anything unusual about me. After all, we're neighbors, just a few steps apart, constantly bumping into each other. With her dropping by every few days, there's no hiding my injuries from her. But I can't just disappear into the shadow layer for 2 or 3 days to recover, that would mean total radio silence. And if I used a fight as an excuse, saying I had broken ribs, split skin, and a bleeding head, that wouldn't sound like a normal fight. Even underground boxing matches aren't that brutal. The girl didn't ask much, so I didn't elaborate. As for what she's thinking, who knows? The wounds on my body still ached a little. I picked up my phone and opened Douyin. The moment I switched to the backend, 999 plus private messages popped up. You there? Who are you? What's the purpose of posting this video? Are you really from Baidu? Damn, straight out the gate with 3 lethal questions. Uncle, are you a night patroller? Is this some script? Do you still have photos of that mutant? Surely it wasn't photoshopped? Braised pork belly recipe. Scrape the hair off the pork belly, cut into dice-sized pieces, prepare scallion sections, ginger slices, dried chili peppers. Seems like something odd slipped into this one. I scrolled further down, and the comments became increasingly polarized. At you, Uncle Warts, we've got solid evidence on you. Go check out his videos. Oilsy Pomelo Wartsy at you, you've been at Exposed Concrete Hammered? For real? Trash Wartsy. Fake videos? What kind of bullshit are you? Got hammered with proof, serves you right. So many night patrollers breaking their backs, and you just got popular by editing clips. How dare you compare yourself to them? Come out, stop playing dead. Nothing but clip editing crap. Come duel some words. Some ad me to watch the video, while the majority bombarded my DMs or went wild in my video comments. What the hell? I wouldn't say I'm mad, just genuinely confused. How did I get cyberbullied the moment I opened my phone? I tapped the link everyone ad me with. A person in the video said, "Hello everyone, I'm D-Dow. Today, we're not doing store reviews, we're taking you on a counterfeit busting mission." He held up another phone in his hand, displaying footage of me hunting spiders. Have you all seen this video? So-called blur, so-called alien species, is that really what they are? Shadow layer, alien species, assassins with memory loss. Hey, take a good look yourselves. Does this video look real? I couldn't help but feel amused. I was familiar with this blogger called D-Dow, bald, round-faced, always squinting when he smiled, speaking in an exaggerated tone. He usually posted store review videos, mostly active at fried liver restaurants across Baidu. Even at roast duck restaurants, he'd only order duck. No idea how he managed to amass over 1 million followers. He basically just says one thing when checking out shops: this stuff is what you call authentic. How could I have gotten exposed by him? I kept scrolling down. First, let's show you the video. Then we'll watch it frame by frame on the computer. Immediately, the screen switched to a computer recording. Let's skip the beginning part for now and start directly from where the fight breaks out. First look at this frame, then the next. There's a significant change in the movements of this variant. This is called frame dropping, literally means several frames have been pulled from the video. In a normal video sequence ABC, he directly removed the content of B, connecting it with C. What exactly was shown in the removed frames, we have no idea. Take a closer look at this section of the image. It clearly shows unusual color discrepancies compared to the surrounding areas. Some might claim it's due to camera pixel issues, but let me tell you, that's all just excuses. This is about creating a new layer, using the pen tool to outline the selection, then applying feathering and blur effects. Dow D meticulously broke down each step in the video, presenting every detail with clear reasoning and even pulling up video editing tutorials, making it impossible not to be convinced. I know my editing skills are just average, far from being able to pass off as genuine. My biggest issue is cutting out the scenes where I get pummeled into the air and shortening the actual fight duration, making it look like I'm the one relentlessly pounding that giant spider, all to exaggerate my combat prowess. I didn't expect a fact-checking blogger to pop up. The guy in the video, D-Dow, was still ranting. These editing techniques were all summarized by a friend of mine. That guy's a damn authentic editor, absolutely no way he'd tell a lie. Why am I exposing this person today? Take a look at this, folks. With that, he slammed a small notebook onto the table with a loud smack. The black cover bore the words Night Patrol Auxiliary. Night Patrol Auxiliary Personnel, this is certified, solid proof. I, D-Dow, might not have much skill, so I couldn't become a proper night patroller, but when the Night Patrol Bureau needs extra hands for missions or to hunt aberrations in the shadow layer, that's right up my alley. Back in my younger days, I must have killed no less than dozens of aberrations, if not hundreds. I can spot a real superhuman from a fake clown at a glance. You say in times like these, of all the hot topics to latch onto, why hitch yourself to the Night Patrol? Can you even handle it? The background's all blurred out, unclear. Did they even go to the real shadow layer? Alright, that's all I have to say. Some people would do well to heed this advice. I opened the comments section. 1/3 of the people were cursing the subway, another third were cursing me, and the rest were just there for the show. Some insisted that such realistic graphics couldn't possibly be from anywhere but the shadow tier. What's the deal with the editing? Obviously, shots that can't be aired have to be cut. Do you think official media videos are completely unedited? Another group said a few shots actually had serious issues and claimed I had no real talent, just attention seeking. So you're saying my mark and hunt abilities only last 1 second because you've been steering the narrative? Everyone assumes I'm weak, huh? Well, honestly, I'm not exactly strong. After browsing through several comments, I found it increasingly amusing. Back when I drew comics, I got plenty of flack from peers. Now that I make short videos, I'm being criticized again, even exposed for faking content and chasing clout. I chuckled softly. Let them expose me, it doesn't matter. This was completely within my expectations. I'll keep posting videos as usual. Only when the tide goes out do you see who's been swimming naked. So, what's next? With my remaining lifespan constantly dwindling and my predator reputation needing further enhancement, it's time to go hunt another aberration. But before that, I switched to my Douyin alt account, crafted the caption, and uploaded the video. Exposed. YouTuber fakes footage? This is what we call sabotaging myself. I glanced at the draft videos neatly lined up in my backend creators folder. You owe us an apology. Fraudulent supernatural influencer. Shocking truth. The dark side of you exposed? Smoking gun questionable. There's more to YouTubers' videos. Chapter 19, Ghost? Lin M.O. Who exactly is you? He's definitely no ordinary man, just an unbiased observer here, but let's be fair, a born predator, the stuff of nightmares for his enemies. The online chatter, self-deprecating jokes, whitewashing attempts, blatant hype was all meticulously orchestrated in one seamless package. In the shadow layer, armed with the experience from last time, I strategically positioned the cameras on different parts of my gear. Standing atop the high-rise surveying the surroundings, the buildings stretched out before me, and the streets held noticeably fewer aberrations wandering about compared to previous days. The shadow layer resets periodically, each time bringing forth a new batch of anomalies into the world. This phenomenon is known as the shadow tide. It's been nearly half a month since I awakened my abilities. Those first few days must have been the early stages of the tide, when the shadow layer teemed with anomalies of all strengths. At this point, I genuinely can't seem to find a suitable mutant. A mid-tier first-rank mutant nearly took half my life. Anything stronger would probably crush me with one hand. My gaze suddenly focused. There was another Apiao. On the street next to where I had battled the last Apiao, a figure was crouching against the corner of a wall. This Apiao seemed slightly different from the first one. It was farther away and had its back turned to me, so I couldn't make out the details. But since my strength had grown significantly, I decided to move closer and play it by ear. I turned and stepped out of the shadow layer, then left the rooftop. Last time, jumping from the 6th floor nearly broke my legs. What kind of powerful assassin of aberrant species was I? More like a fledgling superhuman who still took the stairs. This Apiao had a slender build, devoid of conventional hair, its lower body floating in a ghostly form. Its hollow eyes suggested it likely had no visual perception. Its maw waved 4 tentacles, its facial features twisted into a fearsome snarl, its body a mosaic of black, gray, and white like a ferocious predator. Compared to the first muscular wraith, this one appeared slightly leaner, exuding an air of nimbleness and speed. The manual called it a roaming spirit, a name that sounded light as a feather, though its muscular build suggested otherwise. I couldn't tell what it was lying in wait for, perhaps waiting idly for prey, but its disguise couldn't fool me, a true hunter. After all, the glowing health bar above its head was far too conspicuous. HP, 82%. The health bar showed it was in decent shape, likely only suffering minor injuries. Judging by the aura it radiated, its strength probably surpassed even that of the first wraith and that giant spider. My mind kept racing. Should I make a move? If its health dropped below 50%, I'd throw a punch without hesitation. But with 80% of its HP intact, I'd never faced such a formidable mutant before. I flipped through the skills I already possessed, various strategies flashing through my mind. Finally, I tightened my grip on the steel rod. If I played it safe, it might be worth a try. I slipped into the darkness, silently drawing nearer to it. The Shadow Strike skill highlighted several weak points on its body, the darkest hue marking its abdomen. Step by step, I closed the distance, 15 meters, 13 meters, 10. It seemed to sense something, lifting its head warily to sniff the air, but with its current strength, it had no hope of detecting me. Closer and closer, 5 meters, 4 meters. I suppressed my killing intent, concealed my footsteps, far smoother than my first successful hunt. As the distance shrank, I could see more clearly. Black lines wriggled across its body like tadpoles, its 2 forelimbs transformed into long blades, a far deadlier weapon than the first Spectre's combo of arms plus sickles. If the previous one was just a juvenile, then this one is the fully mature form. A strange sense of familiarity surged within me, though I didn't dwell on it. Taking a slight breath, I steadied my stance and activated Mark. An unseen energy descended. The creature jolted upright as if electrocuted, scanning its surroundings with extreme unease as its twin blades snapped into defensive positions. In barely half a second, I closed the distance. Channeling all my strength, I slammed my staff hard into its abdomen. With a dull thud, it was sent flying skyward. HP, 82%, 42%. Mark, plus, Shadow Strike, dealt a whopping 40% HP damage in a single hit. The health bar plummeted dramatically. The sheer effectiveness left me momentarily stunned. Mark, the ability only lasts 1 second. I must kill the enemy within that second to successfully hunt and reap the rewards. I believe my only advantage lies in that first ambush. Otherwise, facing it at nearly full strength, I wouldn't dare engage head-on. So, I used every trick I had, and unexpectedly, the results far surpassed my expectations. Hiss! It roared in agony after crashing into the wall, losing a few more health points before collapsing. Seizing the moment, I discarded the bent steel pipe and swung my clenched right fist downward. To my surprise, even after taking such a heavy blow, it still had the strength to roll away and evade my punch, before countering with 2 massive blades, each swirling with dark patterns, slicing toward me. Those blades are terrifyingly fast. My punch barely grazed it, taking off single-digit HP at best, but one careless slip against its strikes could cost me half my life. I quickly did a donkey roll to dodge sideways, that strange sense of familiarity growing stronger in my heart. Could this ghost actually affect people's minds? Clang, clang, clang. It moved so fast it became a blur, sweeping toward me again. This thing is ridiculously quick, I cursed inwardly. The two blades grazed my scalp, thanks to my shadow form. I looked unharmed, but my HP had already dropped to 60%, and we'd only been fighting for a few seconds. No wonder I could knock off 40% of its health with one hit. This thing was clearly a glass cannon assassin, high attack, high agility, paper-thin HP. If fighting without a proper weapon put me at too much of a disadvantage, leaving me passive in both offense and defense. Perhaps affected by its injuries, its assault slowed after several strikes. Seizing the opportunity, I rushed forward and punched it right in what passed for its upper jaw. Its movements froze. I shifted my footing, turning and raising my elbow in one swift motion. The hardened elbow strike dealt massive damage. Its HP plummeted to 25%. It was almost over. TSK. Its voice was weak. I didn't give it a chance to recover, lunging forward like a tiger to pin it down. Staring at its hollow eyes and eerily human-like face covered in crawling vein-like patterns, my raised arm suddenly froze. No, this sense of familiarity, I've definitely seen it somewhere before. Suddenly, a jolt of electricity seemed to surge through my body, or maybe it was thunder exploding in my mind. My pupils contracted sharply as I gasped, Baidu Academy, you're that night patrolman. I remembered that night watchman whose name I never knew, who died in the shadow layer. Chapter 20, The Mystery, A Failed Hunt. Supers carry contamination within them, essentially being humanoid aberrations. That's why before death, they must exhaust every ounce of their power to minimize the risk of their corpses mutating post-mortem. I watched with my own eyes as Lin Mo swallowed the pill, his health bar hitting 0 before 3 other night watchmen carried him away. Barely 5 or 6 days had passed, less than a week. How did he end up in this state? The moment my attack paused, Lin Mo, whom I had pinned beneath me, suddenly erupted with tremendous force, throwing me off. It didn't continue the assault, letting out a sharp cry before swiftly fleeing outward. Stop! I shouted, rolling over to give chase, but it was too fast. I couldn't catch up. Struggling to take a few steps, I could only watch helplessly as it turned the corner and disappeared. Well, it's gone. Even if it hadn't run, judging by its current state, it probably wouldn't have been able to answer my questions anyway. I withdrew my gaze and opened the manual, the luminous screen swirling before me. Name Jiangyu. Attributes. Rank. Abilities. Remaining lifespan 7 days. At first glance it seemed normal, but looking downward, my breath caught. Entering the shadow layer, you have discovered prey. Possessing the hunter status, you are thrilled about the imminent hunt, already envisioning the moment of your successful kill. About to succeed in the hunt, yet unexpectedly let the prey escape. Unfortunately, this was a failed hunt. As a hunter, repeated hunting failures will bring shame upon this station. Be warned, continuous hunting failures will weaken your strength and even shorten your lifespan. Whatever. I don't have many days left to live anyway. At worst, deduct my lifespan, let me drop dead on the spot. A hunter, after all, death is just another beginning. The human body has its limits, I decided then and there, to stop being human. Of course, that was all just a joke. The frustration gnawed at me like a toothache. So what if the hunt failed? Why make such a big deal out of it? What a damn hassle. The panel refreshed again. You know deep down, only by continuing to hunt, building your fearsome reputation, and ascending in rank can the hunter truly wield the power of life and death. But right now, your heart is full of rage. Life feels meaningless. Hunting? Forget it. Just wait for death. Might as well become a ghost already. Bullshit. This damn panel is deliberately screwing with me, right? It nearly made my nose twist in anger. I've only got 7 days left to live. I'll try harder this afternoon. If I still can't hunt anything down, I'll have to turn to Uncle Lee, then Uncle Lou. Even if I have to make up a reason on the spot. At the very least, let me take down a low-tier rank 1 monster to recharge a few days of lifespan. Things aren't completely hopeless yet. I searched around the neighborhood for over an hour but still couldn't find suitable prey. A sinking feeling settled in my chest. The East District 1 of Yunhai Settlement isn't far from the central area, and public safety has always been decent here. Maybe I should try another district? Guess I have no other choice. I found a secluded spot and stepped out of the shadow layer. A subway station was 500 meters away. Taking the train with a transfer would get me to East District 2 in about 20 minutes. It was already past 2 in the afternoon by the time I grabbed a quick bite on the way and exited the subway. Though I was a native of Yunhai, I hadn't spent much time in East District 1. This area was on the fringes of Yunhai, mostly clusters of chemical plants and corporate buildings, with plenty of abandoned construction projects and vacant lots. I slipped back into the shadow layer and found an open vantage point to survey the surroundings. Soon, my gaze locked onto the unfinished building across the way. There, a figure with faint reddish skin, massive limbs, and bulging muscles lay sprawled in rest. To be precise, the thing had no skin, its tendons were fully exposed, with visible blood vessels and meridians. Its 2 claws were hideous, coiled with a bloody sheen, the fingertips curved like blades. Its slender tail tapered to a diamond-shaped tip, bristling with barbs that could tear out chunks of flesh upon contact. Its body was pockmarked and battered, with one leg visibly broken. The 30-meter gap between the two buildings fell squarely within the blood bar visibility range. HP, 43%. This thing looks promising, with massive HP almost depleted. Its size is slightly larger than a wisp, seems like a strength-type variant, probably tanky with high attack. But if I can land a surprise attack, I can take it on. I crouched down and crept toward the opposite building. Before long, I was peeking cautiously around the corner. This mutant had few exposed weak points, tricky prey. Whether it sensed my gaze or not, it abruptly rose from its light doze, tail erect with alertness. Damn, it's too sharp. I quickly ducked back into hiding. After about 10 seconds, only confirming no threat, it settled down again. I stole another glance. The concentration of red spots on its body had slightly faded, not as relaxed as before. No rush. Hunting demands patience. Holding my breath, I waited silently. A minute passed, then 5, then 10. The red spots began glowing brighter again, the optimum moment to strike for maximum damage. Almost time. Mark! The sound of the front door closing and someone entering the house came from inside. Where have you run off to again? Uncle Lee? Dad? Lu Yaoyao looked toward the doorway, her stir-frying movements freezing, hesitating whether to keep cooking or stop. We've been neighbors since childhood, our families are very close, but meeting like this with her in the middle of cooking feels awkward. Cooking? Li Xuanguang smiled warmly and nodded at her as he slipped into his slippers. Clad in his night patrol coat, with faint stubble lining his temples and chin, his rugged features gave him the look of a seasoned, weathered uncle. See, I told you she was here, Lu Nanfeng said with a hint of sourness in his voice. Dad, you're talking behind my back again, Lu Yaoyao protested with a mix of embarrassment and irritation. Why are you home from work so early today? The office was quiet, so I left early, Lu Nanfeng said. It's rare for us to get together, how about treating ourselves to a nice meal at a restaurant? Oh, no need, I'm already halfway done. Let's do it another day. Today's the perfect chance for me to taste Yaoyao's cooking, Li Xuanguang said with a laugh. Such opportunities don't come often. I'm lucky to hitch a ride on Xiaoyu's coattails. Uncle Li. Li Xuanguang smiled and glanced around the room before asking, where's Xiaoyu? Not here? I don't know, probably went out to play. How irresponsible, going out to play by himself and leaving you at home to cook for him. He walked into the house and glanced toward my room. Click. Just then, the front door lock turned, the door creaked open, followed by a slam as it closed. My clothes were tattered, with a few bloodstains on my body, my hair a disheveled mess like a bird's nest. The moment I stepped inside, I started shouting, food, 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 chow, 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 I'm starving, I'm about to die. Yao Yao, what delicious food did you make for me today? Let Big Brother take a look. I'm in a good mood today, bought the lollipops you love. You wouldn't believe it, I got chased by a huge wolfhound the whole way, almost got bitten to death. Why'd you send me so many messages? Miss me or? I kept chattering away non-stop. I had just taken off my coat when I sensed something odd in the room's atmosphere. I looked up and found myself locked in a staring contest with the person across from me. Jiang, you! The girl's face gradually flushed crimson like a sunset, her eyes blazing with enough fury to incinerate me. Chapter 21, I'll give you special treatment. I was chased by stray dogs and had to sprint like mad, it left me delirious. I offered in a feeble explanation. The four of us sat around the dining table. Lu Nanfeng wore an expressionless face, while Lu Yaoyao appeared calm on the surface, though her eyes kept darting angry glances at me. Li Xuanguang looked both exasperated and itching to give me a thrashing, no doubt thinking this troublesome kid of his was truly giving him headaches. Alright, Lu Nanfeng chimed in to diffuse the tension. It's rare for us to gather for a meal today, so let's not spoil it with unpleasant talk. As for fighting, what young person doesn't fight? If you don't get into scraps, can you even call yourself young? Love rivalries, showing off for the girl you like, I get it, he continued. What was that girl's name again? The one in the little skirt? I saw you walking side by side with her myself. You show her. Lu Yaoyao lowered her head and shoveled rice into her mouth, adding calmly. Right, that's the name. That girl is really pretty, so delicate, fair-skinned, with such a graceful figure. If I had met a girl like that when I was young, I'd have been willing to fight tooth and nail for her too. Uncle Lu, is this really something a person should say? I felt a shiver run down my spine. Before I could explain, Uncle Lu raised his glass. Come on, let Uncle Lu propose a toast to your success. What are you waiting for? Toast your Uncle Lu, Li Xuanguang teased. This was practically a 3-on-1 ambush. Grinding my teeth, I still raised my glass. Uncle Lu, here's to you. After taking a sip of wine, I watched as Uncle Lu's daughter had a gloomy expression on her pretty face, yet his mood seemed to lighten a bit, probably feeling smug seeing me in an awkward situation. Come on, Uncle Lu, have some dishes. You're always out and about, hardly getting the chance to taste Yao Yao's home cooking. Hey, Yao Yao, do you cook often at home? You must, otherwise how'd you get so good at it? As if she ever cooks. I saw Lu Nanfeng's face darken instantly. Thinking back, Lu Yaoyao had barely prepared meals at home. Li Xuanguang told her to look after me, and this girl immediately rushed over, eagerly pampering me with different dishes every damn day. Considering that, I could almost see the veins on Lu Nanfeng's forehead twitching. The meal had an atmosphere like clashing blades, sharp edges concealed beneath the surface, where one wrong move could spell disaster. After sending off the grim-faced Uncle Lu and the flushed Yao Yao, I finally let out a sigh of relief. Uncle Li, want a drink? I asked, opening the fridge. No. Li Xuanguang paused. Have you awakened your ability? My pupils contracted. What ability? I've been a night watchman for 20 years, Li Xuanguang said calmly. Uncle Li. I turned around with a bitter smile. When did you awaken? About half a month ago. How did you awaken? Uncle Li, you're interrogating me like a criminal suspect, I chuckled helplessly. Li Xuanguang was momentarily taken aback, then smiled. No need to be so nervous. Come sit here. How I awakened? I'm not really sure either. It just happened all of a sudden, I explained. Natural awakening, huh? Li Xuanguang instinctively reached for a cigarette but withdrew his hand after a moment's thought. It's not very common, though we do get a few cases every year. Is that so? I secretly sighed with relief. Li Xuanguang began scrutinizing me, his gaze making me intensely uncomfortable. Uncle Li, I couldn't help but ask. I'm observing your situation. I could see a faint glimmer flashing in Uncle Li's eyes. Was this him activating his ability? I wasn't sure, since I didn't actually know what his superpower was. After a moment, Li Xuanguang's eyes returned to normal as he lazily leaned back on the sofa again. After a few seconds of silence, Uncle Li spoke up. This year, anyone with awakened superhuman potential will be forcibly enrolled in the martial arts examination unless their willpower qualifications are unacceptably poor. Yao Yao already told me. I nodded. So what are you thinking? What do you mean? In recent years, the Night Patrol Division has been under immense pressure, with the casualty rate rising each year. I could pull some strings for you. Skip the martial arts exam, just take the regular college entrance exam later. Damn, he actually said that out loud. Pull some strings? Li Xuanguang quietly rolled the cigarette between his fingers, his gaze as calm as still water. But don't you love drawing manga? You can choose whichever prestigious university you want, art department or any other major, no problem. Holy shit, Uncle Li's this powerful? What position does he hold in the Night Patrol Department to be able to say something like this? My expression changed instantly. Could I just get the diploma without actually going to school? I couldn't help but ask. Thwack! The next moment, I got a sharp knock on the head. Go to Winterfell Academy, the academic atmosphere there is quite good, Uncle Li advised. No, I replied, rubbing my head. Why? Want to try a different academy? I'd still like to try becoming transcendent, I said. No, this is my decision. No way, Uncle Li. If you pull strings for me, I'll report you to the Night Watch Department myself, I stated matter-of-factly. A question mark gradually surfaced on Li Xuanguang's forehead. I bend the rules for you, and you'd report me? This kid's filial piety is truly heartwarming. I'm not joking with you. The extraordinary world is far more dangerous than you imagine. Focus on your studies. If anything happens, I can still look out for you. I'm serious too, Uncle Li, I sighed. Danger exists everywhere. Besides, you can't take care of me forever, can you? After another long silence, Li Xuanguang nodded slightly. Alright, we'll see if you still feel the same after truly understanding. Anyway, before your junior year, you can always come to me if you change your mind. Wow, today I finally got a glimpse of Uncle Li's capabilities, though I'm not sure if it's real or just empty promises. I hesitated. Uncle Li, maybe tone it down a bit? What if you end up behind bars? Get lost, Li Xuanguang chuckled and scolded, then stood up. Alright, nothing else to discuss. I'm heading back. Wait a moment. Uncle Li, according to the documents Yao Yao showed me last time, transcendents must exhaust their power before death to prevent contamination from leaking out and mutating into aberrants. I asked, is there any possibility that even though someone has died and exhausted their power, they still transform into an aberrant? Li Xuanguang slightly furrowed his brows, gave it a brief thought, and then nodded, saying, of course. Special abilities or external disturbances could both account for the situation you described. Oh, okay. Why do you ask? No reason, just pure curiosity. Choosing the martial exam means you'll encounter these sooner or later. Li Xuanguang headed toward the door. Get some rest early, and don't go out fighting again. Got it. I quickly agreed. Oh right, I forgot to tell you. This year's martial exam has been moved up. Testing will begin right after the new year, so be prepared. After bidding farewell to Li Xuanguang, I fell into thought. Whether the martial exam was moved up or not made no difference to me. I refused to believe my skills weren't good enough to get into a decent university. The key lies in what Uncle Li mentioned. Was that deceased night watchman's death due to some special ability, or was there external interference? The body's already been taken away by the night watchman even if his abilities were extraordinary. it's unlikely he'd turn into an aberrant creature and escape, right? My Adam's apple bobbed as images flashed through my mind, the man's carefree demeanor before death, and that ghostly apparition's form. Or perhaps there's another possibility, could I have mistaken what I saw? Was that really the case?